Hello my friends, my name is Irvin, also known as Cobuman. In today's video, I will show you how to recover a Wi-Fi password. This is not one of those videos where I show you how to hack your neighbor's Wi-Fi or how to hack a public Wi-Fi or anything like that. This is specifically to show you how to recover or show your own password for your Wi-Fi. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, why would I need to know what my own Wi-Fi password is if I'm already connected? Well, the thing is though, if you want to share that password and let somebody else connect to your network, and if you've forgotten it, this is how you will find out what your Wi-Fi password is. Also, if somebody else set up your internet connection, your Wi-Fi, and they didn't show you what the password is or you didn't write it down, this is how you will find out what that is. Again, this video is not to show you how to hack somebody's or public Wi-Fi at all. This is just an educational purposes thing that you can do by yourself. All right. The first thing we need to do is open up a command line, and this is going to be very simple. We just have to make sure that our command line, also known as DOS, is run as administrator. We're going to type in a simple command that will allow us to see which profiles we have used at some point to connect to specific Wi-Fi networks. So for that to happen, we have to type in NETSH space WLAN space SHO space and then type in profile. As the string of words here indicates, this means we're going to show all the LAN profile, or I should say wireless LAN profiles that you have used at some point. So we're going to hit enter here, and now we can see all the profiles that I have connected to at some point. So what can we do here? Well, we know that we have connected to them at some point, meaning that at some point we also had to type in a password for each one of those, if it was secure, of course. And then we know that every time we connect to that Wi-Fi later, we don't have to constantly type in the password. And that's exactly the point of these profiles, meaning that these profiles here will have those passwords stored inside. So now we gotta do is open up these profiles so that we can see what the password is, so that way we can take that password and connect other computers to that same network. So in order to do this, we have to type in a similar command, and what that's going to do is dump the entire profiles onto something that we can read. So what we're going to do is type in NETSH WLAN, and then we're going to type in export and then profile. You get it? We're going to export the profiles that are already there inside the computers. However, we do have to specify where we want to dump them. So we're going to specify, we want you to type it into a folder. So we're going to type in folder, and then we're going to say equals, and then specify which folder that is. So we're just going to dump it into root of C because that's the simplest thing we can do. So we're going to type in C colon. Let me make it a cap so you don't have to. This is just me showing it for the video. So C colon, and then we're going to do backslash, and then we're going to space, and then we're going to type in key, and then we're going to type in equals clear, meaning this is going to show us a key, or as in password, for this when it's dumped. So we're going to hit enter, and this is going to dump all three of these profiles here. It's going to dump it into the root of C that we have specified. So when we hit enter, and there it is. It went ahead and dumped them all into the root of C. You can see what the path is just in case. So we know that it's an XML type of file. So let's go ahead and minimize this. Go to our root of C. We're going to go to the C drive, and now we can see here are the profiles that are dumped with every information about that network. We can see there's FZ80, 3135, BD2, and there's one without the 2, and there's one called police scan. So these are all the all the Wi-Fi networks that I have connected in the past. So let me show you first one here, just so you can tell the difference. If you double click it, it's going to open up automatically in your internet browser because it's an XML file. Of course, you can open it up in Notepad if you'd like. But we can see here what type of a network this was. The main thing we need to kind of concentrate here is on authentication. And we can see here when I connected to this that it was open network. That means there was no password required. And you can see there's no encryption because there's no it's just wasn't secured at all, and there's just no key to be found. However, if we go to the one that's labeled 2 and double click that, and these are just example I'm showing you. Chances are yours will be straight up like this second one. We can see now that this network actually had authentication, and it says here that this is WPA2 PSK authentication, and it's the AES encryption type. And we can also see that the key type was a passphrase, and then we can see what the key material is, and it's exactly that. That would be our Wi-Fi password for this specific network. So it's ABD8D7AF3135BD. So make sure that you look under key material here, and we'll give you the password for your Wi-Fi. This is one of those quick tips that I wanted to make a video about, because yes, sometimes we do forget our own Wi-Fi password, and chances are that maybe somebody else set up our Wi-Fi for us, and now we have somebody else who wants to connect to your Wi-Fi at home, for example, or you want to take your second computer, connect it to the Wi-Fi, but you may not know what the Wi-Fi password is. And of course, this is very educational for those people who might be starting to learn about networking and this and that. If you want to check out, I have lots of videos on networking. That is some really good educational stuff that you can learn from possibly. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please take a moment to leave a like. If you have any questions or comments, I always like to see those. Thank you. Please share this video with your friends that may have also forgotten their passwords. All right. Thank you so much for watching, and you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye. Hello my friends, my name is Irvin, also known as cobuman. Today's video we're talking about ping command and its use. So if you're doing tech support, help desk, network administration of some sort, or just tech support in general for a company, chances are you will be using ping command to troubleshoot different issues, different connection issues over that network. So let me show you how I got this idea. So I went to cosmicnova.com, which is my website, and then I picked one of my popular articles that is called Top 20 Desktop Support Interview Questions and Answers. There's a link right here if you want to check it out. And I picked just a random thing that I saw, and that is a question number 14. What is a ping command and its use? So just so you know, the way I explain things is in a slower manner, where I try to explain things in such a way that anybody can understand computers. You know what I mean? So my videos are specifically designed for people who might be new to help desk or tech support, but if you also have experience, this might be a good refresher for you. So I will be going at a bit of a slower pace and explain as best as I can so it's easy to understand. So if you're doing tech support or desktop support or what have you, chances are you'll be using ping command. So what is ping command and its use? I'm going to talk about the first part of it and explain the whole thing, but my written answer here is generally the ping command is used to determine whether your computer has access to external resources or the internet. So anything that is considered external resources is anything that's outside of the connection of your computer. So let's say you're using a desktop PC at work or a laptop, and then you're trying to access an external resource like a shared drive or a server or a website, whether it's internal or external, and you can't connect to it, or there's a issue with latency or lag of some sort, it's running slow, that's how ping command would be used. And all these things are considered as external resources, so something that your computer connects to over the network. Okay, now through command prompt, CMD, you can type in, for example, ping www.microsoft.com, And this is an example of a ping command. So let's go ahead and open up CMD. I'm going to open up command line, command prompt, or whatever you call it. I keep saying command prompt, command line. I use Linux too, so sometimes I forget which one is which. Anyways, we're going to use this example that we have here, and it's ping www.microsoft.com. So let's see what happens when a normal working website is up and running and see the result from it. Did I misspell that? Of course I did. Microsoft.com. I'm trying to multitask here, so you will forgive me. Okay, so one of the first things that comes up that you will notice here is a number, which is an IP address, which is controlled by the DNS. And the DNS, basically what it does is takes a domain name, in this case Microsoft.com, and translates it into an IP address, which is the location of this website on a server. So the server for Microsoft.com is located at 23.45.133.21. So that's the IP address for the server of the server for Microsoft.com. Okay, so now these are real results of the ping command for a normal running website that is up and running and there are no problems. So what happens is ping command sends 4 packets of data. So you can see here that it sent 4 packets. They are size of 32 bytes. And then it waits for a response and how long it takes to respond, which is shown here in milliseconds. So this is the first attempt from of the ping to this IP address, and we can see that the response time here, that it took 14 milliseconds to respond. And then the ping command does it again, which is the second time, and this time it replied in 15 milliseconds. And then the third time, also 15 milliseconds. And then fourth time, also 15 milliseconds. Hence, 4 packets sent. Right? Very, very easy to understand. But of course, for it to actually respond, for actually to have a response of any sort, it has to send back 4 packets as well. So you can see here that the server at 23.45.133.21 also sent back 4 packets which were received at the same size. And then we can see that lost 0, that means it was successful. That means none of the packets failed, that all the 4 pings were successful. That's an example of successful ping command. We know everything is okay with this website. So let's go find a website that doesn't work. So I went to this website, and this website kind of tells you of some of the big websites that are down. So let's kind of pick a random one here. Let's pick Trivago.com here. That's a safe website. We're going to type in ping Trivago. Well, let's do www.trivago.com. Now, if this website is down, like it says it is, we're going to get some negative results, which would be a good example of how you use a ping command and how to help you troubleshoot the issues. So far, we can see that it's timing out. What does that mean? That the first packet was sent and it didn't connect. It waited a certain amount of time, didn't connect to the server, or the server didn't reply, I should say, and then it timed out. And then the second time as well, first time, second time, and we're waiting for the third one. Third one timed out. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go all full screen here. Let me kind of move some of this stuff out of the way so it's easier to see. And we can see that all 4 packets sent timed out. That means that the server just, the ping, waited, we waited and the server didn't respond, timeout. There's only a certain amount of time ping command will wait for a response. And that's what happened. And we can again see here that 4 packets are sent. And then 0 received. And in this example, Trivago.com is located at this IP address. That's the server, that's the web server for the Trivago.com. And now we can see that we sent 4, we waited, nothing happened, we received 0 because it's down. And then we lost 4. That means we sent 4 and they never came back, which gives us 100% loss of packets. So how does this help us? Well, for one thing, we know the website is down, or a server that you're trying to access at your job is down, right? We can, web server or some other network component, some other network resources. If you have the name for it or the IP address, you can just ping the IP address. If you wanted to, you can just type in ping, IP address 35179.002.200. And here we go again. We're pinging Trivago's server again, except we're just directly bypassing the domain name. And we're bypassing the DN. Well, we're not necessarily bypassing but we're bypassing the domain name. We're going directly to pinging the server itself. And again, it's timing out, which is another indicator that the website is down. So going back to the my question of how does this help us aside from knowing that the website is down? So if it's an external website, what we would have to do is find the webmaster for it, or a person who has access to the server. Same thing goes for if it's internal website. So let's say your business, or the business that you work for, has some kind of internal website that everybody goes to, everybody uses it, this and that, and you don't have necessarily access to it. You would find that webmaster and contact them. So how would you go about that? Well, if you know who the owner of Trivago.com is, you would contact them directly, obviously. But if you don't know who the owner is, based off the name of the Trivago.com, based off the domain name, you can see who the owner is of this IP address. And this is something that your company would provide this to you if you're doing tech support. So you would basically have a tool that lets you tool, or some kind of notes or something. I don't know. This all depends on, this varies from place to place, But for example, at my main job, I will know who owns this IP address. So not only can I look up to see who owns Trivago.com, for example, I can also look up who owns this IP address, and then I would contact that guy who is the owner of this IP address, or guy or gal or whatever. I would contact them and say, hey, this website is down. But the only time I would do that is if I don't have direct access to this. So let's say this is a server that I have, that I'm running, and everybody in the business here is using it as just a storage location. Let's say this is just a web server that hosts files for everybody in my building that I support. Well, I would simply just try this. If I don't have physical access to it, I would open up remote desktop connection, type in 8.35.179.200. See if I can connect to it. And it's going to fail because obviously I don't have access to it. And, that's okay. But if I have physical access to it, and I know where it's located in the data center or in a server room or whatever it is, chances are this server might be just turned off, or, there might be something else bad with it. But at least I will know that there is something wrong going on by using the ping command, and that will get me to either me fixing it or finding who can fix it. And that's how you would use ping command in a business environment. If you're doing more network administration support, you can use traceroute and find out more about this, but I will save that for another video, so be sure to subscribe. All right, guys, I hope you like this easy to follow video. Please share this video with your friends. I really appreciate it. It really helps me helps support my channel, basically. So thank you so much. Please leave a like, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Welcome, my friends. My name is Irvin, also known as cobuman. Today's video is on traceroute command. This idea comes from my article that is called Top 20 Network Administrator Interview Questions and Answers, which is located on my website that is called cosmicnovo.com. There's a link that will pop up right here on the top right hand side if you want to read that. In addition, I'm kind of expanding on my previous video that was about ping command. So if you want to check that out, there will be another pop-up here separate for that video if you want to watch that as well. It's another good video to watch. So let's get into it. And the way I explain things is in a easy to understand manner without throwing a lot of terminology out there or anything like that. So yes, knowing basic knowledge about computers is helpful here, but I will explain it in such way where anybody can understand what I'm talking about, because how many people actually use traceroute, or how many people even understand it? And I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm just saying sometimes it's hard to learn something if it's explained in the wrong way. Either way, for this we're going to need a command line, which we're going to open up right now. So in order to use traceroute, we're basically going to use the example from the article. It's simply typed in traceRT, pardon me, traceRT, followed by the name of the website you're trying to reach. This doesn't have to be a website. It could be a server of some sort, or a switch, or I should say just an IP address of a network component or a location. So, and that gets me into why would you want to use traceRT? Before I even hit enter here and then a bunch of stuff comes up, I want you to understand why you would want to use it. So let's say at your work, at your office, for some reason you cannot reach cosmicnovo.com. However, from your phone, which is, by the way, on a network, on a different network entirely, you can reach Cosmic Novo just fine. Also, another example is an application that uses network connection to work. For example, an application that has to reach to a database that could be located in totally different state, country, this and that. It could be at the end of the world. It could be that it's not working. That's another reason you would want to use traceroute. Or simply there is a server somewhere we can't reach, whether it's used for storage or this and that. We would want to use traceroute to figure out why you can't reach it from your office network, but you can reach it from any other network. So what it does in the nutshell, traceroute, it traces all the routes taken on the network to reach cosmicnovo.com in this example. So it's going to map it out for me. So think about it this way. Let's say you have a date, or you are going somewhere that you've never been before. You open up your phone, you go to Google or Apple or whatever it is that you're using, you type in your navigation the address that you want to visit. And it gives you all these routes that it takes. It says go straight, go left, go right, this and that. The traceroute kind of does the same thing in a sense. However, traceroute, it will tell you whether there are certain roads or routes that you cannot take, or that they're broken or non-existent. So that's a very simple explanation of what traceroute does. It tells you whether a certain turn is broken or non-existent. Hence the name traceroute. I hope that's an easy one to understand there. So we're going to see an example of this. As soon as I hit enter here, we're going to see what happens, and I'm going to explain all the steps that it's going through. All right, hitting enter. With traceroute executed, this is typically what happens. It takes maximum of 30 hops, as in 30 roads or 30 paths, if you will, in order to reach the final destination, which is this IP address for this website. And this may take a while. This is why I have a finished traceroute of all the routes taken for that website, and I will show you what that is right now. So let's have a look at some of the things that kind of stand out. The first thing, the first hop that shows up is basically pinging my IP address of the local computer. So the computer I'm using right now, local IP address for that is 192.168.1.1. So that's a typical local IP address. Second hop is basically trying to ping my IP address, external IP address for the internet. So my internet provider, which is Charter, is actually blocking that information for security reasons. It automatically blocks it. There's nothing I can do about it, but it's perfectly normal to see a second hop fail timeout like this. And then you can see that hops 3 through 8 are all from my internet provider. Charter.com Charter is my internet provider, and you can see all these, if you will, switches that it takes in order to access the internet that goes the outside of the Charter's network. So it goes through all of these, and everything seems fine, so that's perfectly fine. And then finally reaches the internet, and then it has to go through this switch here. And again, it looks normal. This route is normal. And then it goes to the number 10. Again, it's normal. Then we look at 11, and we can see that there's increased millisecond response. Not necessarily too bad, because we're not talking like 80 milliseconds, 100 plus or something like that. However, something does stand out here, and that there is a third, on the third response or third attempt ping of it, there is no response whatsoever. It timed out. So if we are having issues connecting to the final destination, potentially we could look at the switches or servers that are located at these two IP addresses. So the first one is 72.1.232.70, and this other one that starts with 172. So because we see no response here at all for the third ping there, we can kind of possibly assume that there might be some kind of a latency issue with these two switches or nodes, if you will, or they could be server or whatever it is that they are. We can look at that, because it could be a server somewhere. And the reason I say server is, in a sense, depending on which type of thing are we troubleshooting. Are we troubleshooting a website, or are we troubleshooting application connection, this and that? So it could be a part of the final destination of, like, for example, application that maybe uses some kind of database that is located at this server or whatnot, or server itself could be the firewall. We don't know, but we need to know kind of what's causing this delay or lack of response whatsoever, if there is a problem, right? But typically that's associated with higher millisecond response time. So in our case, this is probably just normal, and chances are that these servers here just have a limit of how many times you can ping it. So we're going to move on from that, and then it goes through a bunch of different nodes here, which could mean that it's just blocking. This is very typical, that these nodes are literally just blocking these type of connection requests, which is fine. This is pretty normal, but every time you see a gap in between where it fails somewhere, this is something we would have to be concerned about. And we'll potentially look at that here in a moment, but this is an example of a good traceroute response. And then finally reaches the destination of 130.211.160.109, which is where cosmicnovo.com is located, as you can see here. So it took all the routes, and it took it 23 routes to get to the final destination, and we know that everything is okay here. All right, so I found a website that's supposed to be down, a safe website, and let's see, do I have that going here? Yep, I had it tested. It's anthem.com, which is basically insurance provider, health insurance provider, and I saw that it's down. Let me just double check here one more time. I'm going to ping it one more time to make sure that it's down, and then we're going to do a trace route on it to see if we can figure out what's causing the problem. Chances are it's the web server itself, but it could be something in between too. So I'm going to do a trace route on that as well, and then I'm going to, and you can see that it failed. Sent 4, received 0. It's timing out, definitely down. So we're going to do a trace route. rt anthem.com and see what kind of response we can get. Again, this may take a while, which I will just fast forward to the results so we can see what's going on with that. So as we are looking at the results of anthem.com, you can see that they are similar to what we had earlier in the sense that it's taking same routes initially. And this kind of goes back to what I was talking about. See, this is the first one, and we can tell that it takes, hits my LAN, and then it goes through all of these charter switches, if you will. And if we go back here, we can see that they are the same switches, and it takes that same route. However, after it hits those, it decides to go another way, which was dictated by this switch. This switch says, okay, well, now you're done with the charter network. Now you have to go through this something else. So let's look at the previous one. I'm sorry. Let's look at the previous one here. And did we take the same 15166? So in our case, after the 166, charter sent us to this other one, which ends with 12, which by the way is probably next to it. So there is a switch probably next to it in the same data center. You can see how it's only off by 3 IP addresses. Anyways, it decided in this case for the anthem.com, which is this top one, it decided to bypass the next switch, which typically would have been this one, to route to cosmicnova.com. It had to take another one here. So instead of going to any of these other ones, you can see that this one just said, okay, well, this is going somewhere else. And it takes a different route, and it goes to this other, probably internet provider of some sort, which I'm assuming is related to AT&T. And it doesn't say that here, but the reason I know is if you look at these 7 through 10, you can see that the switches names are STL, which stands for St. Louis. ORD probably stands for Orlando, Florida. And you can see that they're called atlas.cogento.com. And you can see the IP address that are connected to there. However, if you look at number 10, you can see that it says ATT here, so which is AT&T, probably Orlando. So it goes through Florida somewhere, and then it continues with switches that are located or that belong to AT&T, and then routes it further. And you can see that it hits another 3 gateways, most likely on an AT&T server before it reaches its final destination. This is still taking forever, so once it's finished, I'll show you what the end result is for anthem.com. However, I want to talk about a point of failure that may occur that may show up in trace route command. And here's a really good example. We can look at these AT&T switches here. So 11 through 13. Traceroute can tell you immediately whether something failed and in the path that it's taking. So we can imagine that in this example that number 12 here timed out. So let's pretend this one timed out, literally timed out, and we need to figure out where is it at, what's wrong with this. Chances are if it timed out that either it's blocking this type of information from being sent back, which happens with my IP address here. But however, if it's just kind of in the middle here, and we know kind of by intuition that it's supposed to take another route because it goes to the third one here, but for some reason this one in the middle times out, that's a clear indicator of a switch that is, or the switch that is just bad. So how do we find out, if it's bad or not? Well, we would have to reach out to this guy or this company and ask them, okay, well, we need to get somebody from AT&T on the call, or call them or contact them and say, hey, there's a problem here. And they'll be like, okay, well, let's send me the results of traceroute from your location. and they send it, you send it to them, and then suddenly they're like, oh, the number 12 failed, but we still know it's kind of on their network because it keeps going to their network. You see what I'm saying? It goes to AT&T. We know all three of these hops are going to be AT&T, but the middle one fails. That means it's still on their network, and the problem is on their network, and they need to look at this. And they would know. I know it would say timed out here, but they would know what the next one would be or should be, or whether there is a break of some sort that prevents everybody, and that one switch is causing the problem. So they would look at this and they say, okay, well, we know it's on this network. Let's scour our network and look for this broken switch. And that's the point of traceroute. Of course, there could be other examples of that, and that is, let's say this one doesn't time out, but there's a huge latency issue here. That would also be indicated by traceroute that there is a problem. So let's say the response time is like 100 milliseconds or even 80 milliseconds. This caused connection timeouts on the application and or a user end as well. So let's say there's a huge latency here. There's another reason why they would want to look at that switch or server and kind of see what's going on. The reason I say server is because it could be the final destination. We don't know. But in our case, we know it's not. It's just a switch that it's taking. And then with the traceroute information, we can forward this information to them and say, okay, well, this is probably what's going on. Now this thing is going to time out, and I'm going to kind of tell it to skip by hitting enter the attempt. For some reason, it gets stuck like this, waiting to get a response from the switch. And then I'm going to fast forward this to the end result. So as the final result of the traceroute is coming up, we can see that the Anthem.com is just simply down. This is what it tells us. The normal response from the traceroute when everything's okay is indicated in my other window here. And you can see that the final hop gives us the final destination address. In our case of Anthem.com, it doesn't. It never reaches it, and this is clear indication that there's something wrong at the web server level. So the webmaster for Anthem.com needs to look at it and resolve the issue at the server level. So, but when we know that the website is down for everybody, this is not necessarily the reason we would use traceroute.com or traceroute command for. We would simply just use ping command to see if it's up or down. But if there is an issue of latency, if there is an issue of website or an application working for some people but not others that are on a different network, that's when we would use the traceroute. So it's for troubleshooting connection issues that are specific to a network, meaning that just because I can reach it doesn't mean that some other people can as well. So this is how you would use traceroute to figure out where is the breaking point on their end and why can't they reach, or why can't I reach a certain web server, application server, or whatnot. Please share this video with friends, leave a like or any comment, and I will answer them. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Welcome my friends, my name is Irvin, also known as cobuman. In today's video I will show you how to update BIOS on HP computers. Whether it's a desktop or a laptop, the method is very similar or identical. This also can be used as a learning tool for other types of computers, name brands, or specific aftermarket motherboards. It's very important that you watch the whole video because there are a lot of issues that you may come across that I explain, and I also explain to you how everything is done step by step. Very useful for desktop support or tech support in general. So the first thing we got to do is find our BIOS. We got to get the new version of BIOS, so we can simply search for that by going to the internet and just search for your specific model, whether it's a model of a desktop, laptop, or motherboard. Simply type it in. In my case, it's HP 800 G2, and I'm just going to type in BIOS behind that. This should give me results, and sure enough, the top result talks about BIOS for my specific computer. Once you select that link, typically what you see on any manufacturer website is that you will get a list of all kinds of drivers for all the peripherals that are on your computer. For example, audio, graphics card, networks card, storage, and such. However, we want to concentrate on a specific menu here, and that is BIOS. If we click on that and expand it, we do have a download button. We can simply click download, which we will do. Select download, and we're going to click save. This will save the package of the BIOS onto our local computer. That is very straightforward. But let me just go back here and just tell you about something very specific that could be an issue for you if you come across it. It's pretty rare, but it may happen to you. Sometimes you have to update previous version of the BIOS in order to install the most recent one. So basically what happens is you try to install, let's say in this case, version 02.37 revision A. You may get an error that says, nope, you cannot install this until you install a previous version. And here is a link for the previous version right underneath it. If you click that, it may say you need to install, for example, version 02.30 revision A before you can install, for example, 0.37. So in the nutshell, just kind of be on the lookout for that error, and if you do get it, this is what you have to do, and this is where you find the previous versions. Okay, so let's go ahead and open the folder where we downloaded our package, copy it to my desktop just so I can have it here separated from everything else, and you can see that this is a Microsoft packaged type of executable. We're going to run that here, and this is certainly one way of doing it. So if you go here, this is going to unpack it into C, SW setup, and then \SP94599 folder. So once we do that, it's just going to unpack it, and it may start to install it from here, which is certainly doable. So this thing that came up is basically some update and recovery instructions that you can use. You can also do it from here, which gives us instructions on how to do it. Once we are in a start menu, we're gonna hit F10 to set up BIOS flashing, and then I'm going to actually show you this with an external camera that will record all of my steps externally so you guys can see it. So let's look at our unpacked BIOS. So let's see here, it's in the C, and it's SW setup, and then SP94599. So here is our flash files, and inside we have a folder called HP BIOS Update REC. So we're going to go inside of that, and here we have an executable that we can run. So let's see what the what that does for us. So once we initialize this, what it's going to do is going to look for the specific BIOS settings that are on your computer, and then it's going to check to see if the password is set on the BIOS, and if it's not, it's going to deny you installing of this BIOS. So let's go ahead and run this. I'm going to run this from the Windows, and again I will show you how to do it from the BIOS itself. So we can try to do it from here, so we can simply click next, and our other option is to create a recovery USB flash, which is what I wanted to do, and that's another way of doing it. Or you can simply copy BIOS update file to any file location, or create a backup of the current BIOS to any file location. So let's go ahead and create a backup just so we have it, and it's going to create a backup of it within the same folder. So this is a really good thing to do first, just to make sure that you do have a copy of the BIOS just in case you have to revert back to the older version, which a lot of times is not even possible, but HP has created this utility that allows you to do so, which is not the case in most of the BIOS that you update on motherboards or some other brands of computers. So now we have current BIOS was saved successfully. We're going to finish that. And this is actually really simple, so I don't want you to be kind of turned off by so many steps. And it's very good to learn, especially if you're doing desktop support. This might be something you do. So let's go ahead and try to update it from here, and then we're going to do create recovery USB flash as well. So once we click on the update, we get this warning. It says your current Intel Active Management Technology firmware is affected by critical security vulnerability. Please update the firmware or implement mitigations immediately. So if you click OK, it kind of talks about what this is, and it's Intel Active Management Technology. It's a something that prevents or controls remote privileges for that computer. So this should be fixed with the BIOS update. If not, then we can just ignore it for now. And if if you're just using it as a personal computer, which I am, then you don't have to worry about that per se. So we're just going to go move on. Here's an example of what I was telling you about the BIOS version. My current BIOS version is 2.15, and the one that we're trying to install is 2.37. We're going to click next. It's going to create a backup once more of our current BIOS, and then it's going to proceed, or at least attempt to install BIOS through the Windows, and after which we would simply reboot the system and that BIOS update would be complete. That's in the perfect case scenario. This is not necessarily that you'd be able to do in a business environment, but that's okay. Again, I will show you how to do it manually with a thumb drive. So now it has prepared it. Now when we click restart, it's going to install it basically. So we're going to restart it, and for that I'm going to bring an external camera so we can see what happens.
So here we go. Restart has started. Now we're going to see what happens after we did that, and we're certainly going to check the version that it should be, which I believe is 2.37. So now it gives us a couple of different options here. It gives us an option to update BIOS to 2.37, postpone update, or cancel update. So we're going to go ahead and update it. I'll go ahead and hit enter on that. And as you can see, it is commencing the update. It says do not shut down or remove external power from your computer during this process. Chances are that your aftermarket motherboards will have a system or utility that will allow a BIOS update just like so. You may not even have to do it in such way, but it will basically involve the same thing where it would install it and then reboot, and then you'd be pretty much done. Now it's basically just asking to reboot, and there's a countdown. So I'm just going to let it do so in 3 seconds. 2, 1, 0. Oh, that's not good. See? I think I broke my computer. After it made those horrible beeps, the computer was shut down and I had to manually turn it on. It turned itself off again, and now it's rebooting after you saw that message that it says it was finalizing. So that took about, I want to say 15 to 20 seconds. after for the finalizing of the BIOS update. Of course, we can confirm whether this actually happened, and I will record that on screen just so you can see.
So with the update completed, we can double check to see if indeed it worked. And there are a couple of ways of doing it. You can initiate this executable once more. I'm sorry, this is the package, but the executable that we looked at earlier, and it will tell you the current version of the BIOS that's on the system. So if we go back to C, SW setup, SP, HP BIOS, run this again, it will show you what the current version is. But you can also do it with just going into your search bar and just type in system system information, open that up, and where it says BIOS version, it says here that we have version 2.37 that was last created or updated on January 2nd, 2019, which is a little bit more than 2 months ago. Okay, now let me show you how to manually get into the BIOS update. So with our USB drive plugged in here under F, what we can do is run that executable once more. We're going to go inside of C, SW setup, SP94599, and HP BIOS update folder. We're going to run that executable again. And as soon as it comes up, there it is. We're going to create a recovery USB flash. This will create a copy of our BIOS. Make sure you have the correct drive connected. Now it's copying files, and it's going to put it inside of a folder called Hewlett Packard, I believe that's what it said. And here's a little notification where it says, to recover a device with a flash drive, please follow these instructions. Insert the flash drive into USB power on device. May restart up to 3 times, which we will do. Now let's just double check to see where it's at. Before we get to that, USB drive, Hewlett Packard. Now here's a pro tip. If you go inside a BIOS update folder here, it says it's empty, right? But that doesn't make sense much. But if you go into the BIOS folder and look at current, it actually will show you the current one, which is 2.15, but it will also show you the update file for the most recent one, which is 2.37. So sometimes the BIOS, once you go inside a BIOS, and I'll show you that in a minute, to update it manually, it will just say, I can't find these. So what you have to do is actually go back here and go back inside of BIOS, and where it says new and previous, you should copy them. You should copy those files that I showed you accordingly. So you can see that it's empty. The new one and the previous one is empty. So we're going to put them inside of that. I'm surprised that HP in our case didn't do that. So I know this is the old one, 2.15. So we're going to go back here, and that's going to be the previous one. We're going to put it in there. We're going to make a copy of it, because the BIOS thinks it's there a lot of times. So that's a pro tip right there. So, and then I'm going to make a copy of this one. Make a copy of this one, which is 2.37. This is something else that I'm copying over, so you can ignore that. So, and I'm going to put that into the new. It's going to copy it over real quick, and there it is. So now BIOS will know exactly what to look for. We have previous. Oh, where did it go? We have new, and then we have previous. Where did I put the previous one? Okay, well, let's go back here. Here's the previous one. Copy. BIOS. Previous. Okay. Copy it over. There it is. Okay, now we have previous and new installed, which something you shouldn't have to do. But if you get an error where it says, I can't find it, it's not there, not located, this is what you have to do to fix that. Okay, let's move on to the manual BIOS update procedure.
You may have to press a different key combination to get to the BIOS boot menu, but it should be the escape key. And if you remember our instructions that popped up when we downloaded BIOS, it said to hit F10. I'm going to go down so you can see which menu we need, and it says BIOS Setup. So in the main menu, this is how it was. We need to move 1, 2 down where it says Update System BIOS. And as we have a copy of the BIOS, of the new BIOS on the USB drive that's plugged in right now, we can go here, we can go down here and select Update BIOS using local media. So if we hit enter, it's going to give us options to do so. But since we've already done it, the only option that's given us is to roll back the previous version, which is 2.15 as indicated. Otherwise, it would just give us an option to update to the newest version, which we would simply select it on our USB external storage, which is very self-explanatory. Alright, my friends, I really hope that this video helps you, whether you're doing it for your personal computer or you need to learn something like this as a desktop or tech support person. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. This is what I'm here for, and I'm here to help you out with any questions that you may have. If you like this video, please share it with your friends, select the like button, or subscribe. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Hello my friends, my name is Irvin, also known as cobuman. In today's video we're learning some of the basics of PowerShell, specifically on how to install or execute application installation. So what I will teach you here is how to use some basic commands that would lead you towards creating your own scripts that would allow you to install software through the PowerShell. So basically, once you go to the internet and you download something, it's going to be inside of downloads folder, and whatever you decide to install, let's for example take this example here, Media Creation Tool 1809, you would simply double click it and you get the prompts and you go to the prompts and then you install everything like that. Well, you can also execute this through the PowerShell. So there are a couple of ways of doing this which will help you get to the point where you create your own script to run PowerShell remote installs or even local installs, if you will, and that is to get to the same directory. So if we type in cd downloads, it's going to take us to that directory. The reason it got us to that directory because we're already partially there. But if we really wanted to navigate to this, it would be simple as this. We're going to type in users, name of the local profile that I'm using, which is YT login, and then I'm going to type in downloads. It's going to get us to the same place. So if we type in dir, we can see that that media creation tool is indeed there as well. So this is one of those things you might want to double check every time you create or before you start to create your scripts. By the way, this is going to be a little bit more advanced, so it's a little bit more advanced for people who are more familiar with computer software, but if you're new to computers, I will try to go as slow as possible. Comparatively speaking, here's the same directory in a GUI form. So this is inside of our Windows, and we can see that it's exact same stuff that we see in here. So let's go ahead and execute it from the PowerShell, and the way to do that is to type in start process, and then type in media creation tool.exe. See, now we get the same prompt to go through our prompts to basically install our software. However, if you want to make this to be a silent operation, you would do the same thing and then just do a switch or a command, which is /s. This would execute it silently. If it is an MSI package, typically it won't work here because this is executable and it's designed to literally go through the prompts like that. But if you do have MSI package, it will allow you to do so like so. And for example of an MSI package, in case you don't know, is for example this one. This is an MSI installer for that, and that is .msi. Now here's another example of how to do it from a remote location. In our case, we might have something on a network level, which is for me located here. I went ahead and created a folder
for this example on forward / cobuman1, and that is the PC name or the server name that you might be using. And then I'm going to type in folder name repo1. So if we look inside of this one, the IR, we can see that we still have that media creation tool inside of that. So the same way we can execute it from here as well. So we can type in the same way, start process media creation tool 1809.exe. Since we're in this directory already, I can just hit enter and we're going to get that pop up again, and it's installing. So I went ahead and canceled it. This is where you're getting all these errors. Now, we can, the same way, we can start our script by typing in, let's see here, start dash process, and then we're simply going to navigate to the network location. Let's see here. And then it's going to be cobuman1 folder name repo1, and then we're going to do a backslash, and then we're going to type in media creation tool 1809.exe. Then we're going to hit enter, and now we have that pop up again. And again, if you want to make this silent, you're going to have to create your own MSI package or something like that, and basically design it so it is silent, so meaning that nothing happens that you see visually, it just kind of installs it. So that's how you would do it. That's how you would start to create your script for a remote location using PowerShell. Now, you can also use a package manager to download different applications or access different applications and execute them like so, but you would have to have some kind of a package manager that would allow you to do so. So let's look at a repository that's online available right now that you can kind of look at as an example of that. So there's one that was set up for testing by Microsoft, which we will navigate here in a moment. Let me just do a quick clear here so that we don't have any confusion here. And in order to find these packages, we can type in find dash package, and then we need to specify a provider, which that means is, dash provider. This is basically indicates that we're going to now type in the provider name. In our case, the provider or our server name, if you will, is Chocolati. I think that's how it's pronounced. So we're going to hit enter here and see what happens. So here's just the run of all the things that are available as in packages on this repository or server, if you will. So how do we get any of these packages downloaded to our computer? We just kind of have to know which one we want, but we can also kind of, if we specifically want to look for some specific, let's say, I don't know, let's say Notepad. So we can stop it from kind of going through all the things and see if there's anything available for Notepad. Because you can see there are so many different things here, and if there's something specific that you're looking for, you're gonna have to kind of remember that or specifically search for. So let's stop this process here, and I'm gonna leave it up just for the sake of reference. I'm gonna open up a new PowerShell, and we're going to access the same repository, but I'm going to tell it to look for a specific name, and in our case we're going to use an example of Namepad. So we're going to type in again find dash package, and then we're going to type in provider, and then server Chocolati, and then I'm going to specify a command which is name that tells it, okay, I want you to look for this specifically or anything or any derivative of that or anything like that. I'm going to type in Notepad, and I'm going to use asterisk. So I'm going to type in, and everything that's that has a Notepad, there's inside of this repository, it's going to show up as so. So now we can see all the things that are available as a package inside of this repository. So yes, we can now download these packages, and we can use them in our package manager to push this type of different software. So what can we do with this point? Well, we can install one of these packages. So let's go ahead and pick our random one. Let's pick this one, Notepad++. We're going to do Control-C on this so we have it saved. And then again, we're going to we use some commands. And this case, instead of typing in find package, we're going to type in install package. Install package. We're going to type in provider once more, and then we're going to type in chocolate, and then we're going to specify name, and then we're going to say notepad++. So let's see what happens when we execute that. And now it's asking us whether we trust this source, which is for the right reasons. If you're going to look at this repository, make sure that you feel comfortable with installing this on your computer. And here it asks you, are you sure you want to install software from Chocolate? And I can say yes, yes to all, no, or no to all, suspend, or if you're unsure, you can type in help. So in my case, I'm just going to type in Y for yes, and I'm going to hit enter. And now it's installing this package. So let's see what happened. Did this actually install it? This is actually what happened. When we did that, it actually just downloaded that repository into our folder that is created on the root C, and it's going to be in our libraries. And here is our Chocolate. Well, there's a core extension. There it is. Notepad++ is what we just got here. And there are a couple of different packages here that are installed. This one actually came with the installer, so that's cool. Now we can actually execute this installer if we really wanted to. And all right, I found that some of these packages are not incomplete that I've downloaded. For example, Visual Studio here, this one doesn't seem to have the actual executable in there. But this one actually installed. What is this one? This is part of the same one. Okay, well, we can execute this now, and all we got to do is just copy this path here, and then we can type in again start process, and then we can specify that, and then we need to get the name of that installation. Let's do the x64, the 64-bit version of that. And I'm going to paste that in there, and I'm going to hit enter, and here it is. Now let's see if it works silently. It errored out because I clicked no, as you saw. I'm going to use the S switch. Let's see if this, nope. So yeah, it has to be an MSI package for it to install silently, and this one is just a simple executable. Anyways, guys, I hope you find this kind of interesting, because it really is. You can we can set up scripts that will allow you to install remote software packages into multiple computers, this and that. There are many, many ways of going about this. Is kind of just an introduction to PowerShell, and there are many, many different tools that you can look at, and not only can you install, you can also uninstall. And again, there are different ways of doing this. You can use the invoke command, or you can just use install package command. You can use the start process command. Many, many different ways. And this is the great thing about PowerShell. You can customize this to your needs or to your business needs, of just the way it feels the best for your type of business that you'll work at. And I'm not an expert on this. I know some of the basic stuffs, and I really believe that everybody should know and familiarize themselves with some of the basic stuff, just as much as you would familiarize yourself with just using command prompt and creating basic scripts. So that being said, thank you so much for watching this video. Please share it with your friends. If you have any questions, please let me know, and you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye. Welcome, my friends. My name is Irvin, also known as cobuman. Thank you so much for joining. Today's video will be about whatever the title says. The reason for that being is because I need to actually figure out what we're going to talk about. And for that to happen, I will have to go to my website, which is cosmicnovo.com. And I'm just going to pick a random article that's on my website, probably one of the more popular ones over here on the left-hand side, and just kind of talk about a random thing that comes up. For example, here's a top 20 network administrator interview questions and answers article, and I'm going to pick that and kind of scroll down and pick a random interview question that we can kind of expand on. You know what I mean? So let's see here. By the way, I have a video on this particular article as well. If you want to check it out, it's definitely on my channel. Let's see here. Can you name different types of network cables? What is a subnet mask? I think I have a video on that. Can you tell me the difference between a work group and a domain? I'm not sure if I have a video on this, but you know what? Let's go for it. Now, I'm just going to read this answer here to this question, and I'm going to expand on it, meaning I'm going to explain it in a way where it's pretty easy to understand to anybody, even if you're like brand new to computers. I really like helping people who are just starting to learn about computers. So this video will be for you. So all right, let's get to it. So the question is, can you tell me the difference between a workgroup and a domain? My answer here is, with a workgroup, you have a collection of systems that are connected to the same network, but have their own set of rules and permissions set at local level. So let's go ahead and expand on that right away, and then we'll come back to the domain part here because it ties into it a little bit later and at a grander or a bigger scale, if you will. So, all right, let's have a look. If you have more than one computer at home, chances are that in order to share any, data, any files between them, or, to be able to remote desktop into any of them, chances are you would have to be connected to the same work group. Otherwise, you won't be able to see the other computer on the network. And I mean that in a easy manner. You can always see which computers are connected to the network by, you know, pinging the, certain, names and this and that. But that's not what this is about. This is about having an easy access to other computers on the same network, which in a basic home environment would be considered as a work group. So what happens is when you have, let's say, 4 computers at home, and one is yours, maybe your other one is your wife's, your kids, or your brother, your sister, and you guys want to kind of share information, share files across, between each other computer, then you have to join each computer to the exact same work group, which basically creates a mini network at a software level. So this is different from a physical network where it's just, you plug in all the computers to the same router, and it's different from all the computers connect to the same Wi-Fi. That's a physical layer of the network. This is a software layer, which are something we are dealing with right now. So in order to access the software, meaning the operating system of each computer, then we have to make sure they're joined in the same group. So if you look at the properties of this computer, by the way, these are just system properties that I went to so we can get some basic information. You can see that the name of this computer is tech support, and it just says full computer name is tech support. This is related to the networking part of it, but it's the same, so that's good. And the work group here is called new server 0. So each computer that is connected to the same router at home, to the same physical network, will have to be joined to the same work group if you want to share all the media across that same network, including printers and all of that stuff. So let's look at some advanced settings which will kind of tie into on how to join the computer to the same work group. Here are system properties. And another way to get to the system properties, aside from going, of right-clicking to this PC and then properties and then having to click on change settings, you can get to it through control panel as well. This is one of the things I don't really like about the Windows 10 operating system. You can see that a system option also came up here, but let's see how we can get to it to control panel, and we are getting to the same thing. So if we select system in the control panel, we'll get to the same area, but then from here we can either click on advanced system settings or change settings here, and we will pretty much get to the same place. The only difference is if we click on advanced system settings here, it will pull up in just a different tab. You see that? Which is, I really don't like this about Windows 10, but I digress because they don't make it simple just to get to this main advanced setting. I guess this is designed to protect users who may make changes that may break their computer. Anyway, let's get to the first tab of the system properties. I'm going to close this out. And this is how you would change the name of this computer or add it to a domain or a workgroup. So while we're in the computer name tab, we can just look down here, and it's the last button that we have that's called change. We can select that, and here we can change the name of it. We can have it joined to a specific workgroup. So here, this would be empty, chances are, and then you would just type in new server 0 and then click OK, and then you would have to restart the computer, and then your computer would be joined to that same workgroup. So after you do that for all the computers and reboot all the computers, you can now access resources for those other computers over the network. So if you go here, and then you can see that if I expand network, that different computers will show up accordingly. As soon as it loads a little bit, some of the computers are asleep, which may take a little bit for it to pull up. But generally speaking, once you are connected to the network, you can see the other computers that are on that same network and everything else that is connected to the same network. Here you can see there's a WebOS TV connected to it, and there is TS client as well connected to it. Okay, so that's the network. That's the network workgroups. Very simple. It's kind of something you would do in a small business environment or just at home, just so you have basic access to the same resources. Another thing you can do once you connect to the same network, or I should say same work group, you can use remote desktop. So you can use remote desktop connection like this, and just type in the name of the computer you wish to connect to, and I'm going to connect to one of my computers that is called cobuman 1. Let's see if it'll actually let me do it, since I'm already using remote desktop. You can see that I'm already connected to remote desktop. I wonder if I can double remote desktop. Let's see here. The computer is asleep over there. I'm looking at it right now. A lot of times it actually pings the computer and it just wakes up, which is also called wake up on LAN. But for some reason, my computer is fast asleep over there. Just a sec, I'm gonna turn it on so we can try this again. Okay, so I went ahead and touched the keyboard to wake it up. All right, let's see now. Configuring remote session, which means that it's aware that the computer is awake. Let's see. There it is. Now I can connect to cobuman 1 using the username, login, and password that is on that computer over there. Okie dokie. So now we have that done. Now let's go back to the domain. So with a domain, you have a group of systems that are bound by the rules of centralized authentication server. In a domain system, each system has to connect through the domain server using provided credentials, also known as a domain controller. So somewhat similar to a workgroup, domain is a controller or a computer. Just imagine a server somewhere that controls the data that is shared between all those computers that are connected to that physical network. So instead of joining a workgroup, your computer would be joined to a domain. And that domain also controls your login information. So instead of using a login that's on your computer, which is in my case YT login. You can see it here. I'll show you what I mean here. These are local. Here we go. Geez, this Windows 10 really is so much different and so roundabout, not very user-friendly when it comes to. I digress. Here are the local accounts that are on my computer. So these are local accounts that lets me log in locally to this computer. So BUCO and cobuman test account, they're all local accounts. As you can see, they're literally labeled local accounts. There's another way to connect to a computer without having a local account, and that is a domain login account. But for that to work, you have to join your computer to that same domain. And if we go back to these properties and click change settings here, and then click change once more here. So instead of joining Workgroup, we can join our computer to a domain. So we just have to select domain here, and then we can type in domain name, just for example, and then we can, call it, I don't know, cobuman.com, whatever the name of the domain is. So once we do that, we would click OK, and then this computer that is named tech support will join that domain. However, you also have to go to the domain controller, the server, and tell it that you are allowing a computer name called tech support to join the domain. So once you click OK, it's going to ask you to restart the computer, and then the computer will restart or reboot, if you will. And then you get a login information from the domain controller that says, okay, now you use this login. So now that you are joined to that same domain, now you can start to share data between all of those computers that are connected to the same domain, and you also have access to other resources that are available for that domain. So let's say there's a shared drive somewhere, or some kind of a database or something like that that is only available for the computers that are connected to that specific domain. Now you will have access to that. So if you're at work and somebody says, okay, I want to connect to this server, or I want to access this shared drive or something like that, and they can't, if you look at their login information on the domain controller, you can see which resources they have access to. And once you go there, you can see all that information. So chances are you may have to adjust their access to the specific resources. I hope that was pretty easy to understand. This was one of those slower pace videos because these things can be confusing to people, and finding a good way to explain this in a slower pace is pretty rare to find on the internet. So, and I know that a lot of my viewers appreciate this type of explanation. So I hope you like this. Please leave a like on this video. I'd appreciate it a lot. And if you have any questions or any video suggestions related to, just PC support in general, feel free to leave it in the comments box below. And don't forget to subscribe. All right. Thank you so much for watching, and you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye. Hello my friends, my name is Irvin, also known as cobuman. In today's video we have introduction to Microsoft Azure. Microsoft Azure is a web-based or a cloud-based platform, if you will, that allows you to deploy different type of applications using Microsoft's service or Microsoft's processing power. So just imagine a bunch of different locations all around the world that have server rooms inside of them. All of those servers you are able to access through the Microsoft Azure and set up or deploy any application that you may even think of. And I'll show you there's so many options that you can use. So without getting into too much of a detail, I will go ahead and show you on how to do certain things when it comes to Microsoft Azure and the things that are kind of related mostly to administration of the Azure web interfaces and whatnot. There are so many different things that you can go through, and I will show you step by step on how to do this, whether it's deploying certain applications or running different services. I will show you from the beginning to the end for each video, so that way there is no confusion. Friends, if you like this type of content, please take 1 second to click the like button. I really appreciate it. It makes a huge difference for me. All right, so before you can get started, you have to create an Azure account and have a Microsoft account. But before you can activate your Azure account or have full access to it, you need to provide identity verification, and they want or require a credit card for you to use to verify your identity. And they give you $200 in credits for first 30 days to use for all the testing that you want to do or deploy any type of services. And after that, I believe it's free for 12 months. But I'm not sure what the limitations are after that. But if you want to, go in there and set up an account for testing purposes, for learning purposes, you would need a credit card to get going. They don't charge you, as far as I know, maybe charge like $1 just to kind of make sure that you are the person that holds that credit card. Anyways, I don't want to get into that. That's not what this video is about. We are here to learn about Microsoft Azure. All right, so let's go ahead and have a quick look at how it looks like. This is me logged in into Microsoft Azure, and there are a couple of things that you notice first. This is the home page, and typically in the home page what you see is different applications or things you've installed recently, and that would be under recent resources. Above here you have Azure services, and from here you simply select a service that you want to deploy. And don't worry, I'm not going to confuse you with any of this, but I just kind of wanted to show you what's there available. And I'm going to click on more services as I did over there, just to show you that there is a massive amount of different things you can learn. Here are some examples. Here are the categories. There are general, there are networking, storage, web, there's analytics, there is even AI machine learning, there is mixed reality, security monitoring, all kinds of different things you can learn. So if I expand this even further to see all services, you can see that there is just a massive amount of different things you can learn. So that being said, if you want me to talk about specific things that you want to learn when it comes to Microsoft Azure, please let me know in the comment box below, because I really, it's kind of hard to come up with topics, especially when there are so many things to talk about. So there's no point of me doing a video on everything that you see here if there is not enough interest. So if there's enough interest for a specific topic, please let me know in the comments below. However, that being said, in the first two videos we're going to concentrate on creating some virtual machines that I will show you how to access, how to monitor, and how to configure. And after that, the second video will be about file storage and storage containers and how you can install them and run them using scripts through the PowerShell. All right. I hope you're still with me, because I promise it's not going to be confusing or super complex or anything like that. This is just a brief introduction to Microsoft Azure of the things that I will be looking to show you. Alright, so now that we're done with the brief introduction, we're going to start from scratch. So in order to start from scratch, we have to start with a resource group. So what the resource group is, and here you can see it right here, resource group is, you can think of it as a container that will have all the services, all the applications that you run in that one spot. So it's a form of, it's a way to organize everything in one place in order for things to function, and of course things to be built properly, because these are web services that you pay for typically, and if you want to especially keep them running, you're going to have to pay to Microsoft to run all these services. For example, let's say you want to install a web server and you want to deploy virtual machines and run Apache on it, you're going to have to, they want to know, they need to have a way to kind of keep track all of that. So that's what the resource group is. I'm going to click on that, and we're going to create a new one. You can see there are 3 different ones that I've created here, but let's go ahead and create one from scratch. Again, this is just basically think of like creating a package of some sort, and for the package you need that outside shell or outside box. So right now we're creating the box for our services that we're going to run. So this is going to be outside of it. No labels on it yet or anything like that, but we're going to start creating that right now. The first thing that asks here is a subscription. And again, that kind of ties in into what thing I was saying about them, charging you. In my case, I'm using the Azure subscription 1. So this is just a way of, a subscription, if you will, just like a Netflix subscription. You would just kind of pick the subscription that you have currently right now. And this is the free one that I'm using right now. There are $200 in credits available for it, so I'm going to click that, so that way, that's simply it is. You just kind of tell it, I want to use this subscription, and anything that's inside of this resource group is going to be charged under that subscription. This is incredibly important to know, so that way you know what you're getting into and where the charges are coming from as well. All right, and then we're going to name this new resource group. So we're going to name it something that is appropriate for this tutorial, and we're going to just name it Azure tutorial. We're going to name it that. Next thing is resource details. This is also incredibly important. You want to make sure that everything that you deploy is in the same region. And you can see if you expand this that there are so many different regions. You got East, US, US East, I should say, and then Europe North, US Central, Africa, Asia, Canada, and a bunch of different ones. I'm going to stick to US Central. So everything that I create in this has to be in the same region. Think about networking in a sense, especially when you're trying to sync different services with one another. You want them to be in the same region, otherwise they may not work properly. Okay, now just keep that in mind. I'm going to click review and create, and after that I'm just going to click create. So here is our box, guys. This is the box that we've created, and now we're going to add more things to that box. And the first thing we're going to do is create a virtual machine. The reason I wanted to start with virtual machines is because most people are familiar with that, especially if you're a system administrator of sort, and it's kind of simple to configure and install, and most people understand what that is because it's most of the time it's just a operating system that you are familiar with. All right, now the way I'm going to add a virtual machine, I'm going to click on this little hamburger icon here so I can have an expanded menu, and from here we can also select different services, not just from home. This is where we were at initially, but you can also select some of the from the left hand side. This is what I like to use for quick access. So I'm going to go down and simply just select virtual machine. I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to click on here to create a virtual machine. And then we're going to create, I'd say, about 3 different ones just to show you. So we're going to, here we are in a familiar window that we've seen earlier. Again, we have to, make sure that we have the proper subscription selected. This is, again, this is how they're going to charge us for this service. And again, we have resource group. And remember the one we created here? We can just simply select it. We're going to select our Azure tutorial. This is our group, and then we're going to name our virtual machine. So let's see, what's the most common operating system that people are using right now? And that would be Windows, right? So let's go ahead and type in Windows 10 VM. We're going to create one of those, and luckily our region is automatically populated, so we just have to make sure it is that, and it is indeed Central US, so it does memorize that, which is really good. And then I'm not going to talk about infrastructure redundancy. I'm just going to leave it like that. It's just a virtual machine. And then here for the image, by the way, you can use your own image if you'd like. It says here browse all public and private images. That's just a bunch of different things that they have available, but from my understanding you can use your own image as well, but we're just going to use what they have here pre-built for now. And then we're going to select Windows 10, and we're going to go with Windows 10 Pro version 1809, which is a little bit behind. The current version is 1909, I believe, but that doesn't matter. We can certainly update that later if needed, but for now
we want to just going to select that, and here it is, our size. What that means, what it is just the type of CPU and RAM and system resources we want to use for this virtual machine. And here it gives you an idea of what two virtual CPUs cost with 7 gigabytes of memory, and it's $183 a month. So we're going to click change, and we're going to select a different option that's going to be more affordable. In the change window, we have all kinds of different options, and as soon as the loads here it is in costs a month, we can select something that's a bit more affordable. And for that, I'm going to just click this first one, which is just 2 gigs of RAM, one virtual CPU, and that's going to be good enough for our testing purposes. Of course, testing purposes only. And I do, again, I have that $200 credit, but I'm just going to show this in case there's some confusion about billing or whatnot. Anyways, so I'm going to choose one, and you see how it says $47 a month. This is estimated usage. A lot of times, and I'm not 100% sure if the case is with Azure, but I use Google services for Google Cloud services for my website. They will a lot of times give you different discounts. So, I'm not sure if that's 100% the case with Azure, but I suspect it is. It is just depending on what kind of a thing you're using their services for. And of course, you can use the cheap one, which is here $8 a month, but this is incredibly slow, so I wouldn't even worry about that too much. If you look at it closely, it gives you kind of a limits and how much storage you have. You can certainly look at those things on your own, and there it's going to be dependent on your personal preferences or what kind of a system that you need. But I'm just going to use it, this general purpose one. I'm going to leave it at that, and I'm going to click select. All right. Now we have our virtual machine set up. This is going to be our settings for it. So the next thing we have is creating an administrator account so that we can log into it. And we're going to log into it using remote desktop. This is pretty cool that they have it set up. So I'm going to type in cobuman, and I'm going to type in my password. They really want a super long password, which is perfectly okay. So I'm going to type it in twice. All right. And here are the inbound rules. Select which virtual machine network ports are accessible from the public internet. You can specify more limit or gradual network access to the network tab. So I'm going to leave it at RDP, so that way we can use RDP. So I'm just going to leave it at that. And then here it says save money, already have Windows Enterprise. So they're asking you about the license, whether you have a license or not. This is something, if you're seriously going to run this, you can look into later, but for now it's just going to let us install it. So I'm just going to click review and create. And as soon as it approves the deployment, we're going to click create deployment. And after that, we're going to create a couple of more virtual machines. So here's our overview of the things we've selected. By clicking create, you basically agree to the terms of service, this and that, blah 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 blah. If you're interested in more details for that, you can certainly take a look for yourself. Again, we're just kind of trying to keep this as simple as possible, and then depending on what we want to do with this, we can kind of look at the more details later. Okay. Now, once we create this, as you can see, it's initializing deployment. It's going to start deploying it. What happens, it actually creates a virtual network automatically for you, and it places this machine into a virtual network for you, for your container that we kind of talked about. So now, like kind of going back, that resource container that we created is that box that we have. Now we're starting to put things inside of this box. So everything that's inside of this box is the network that everything's going to be on. And again, we kind of made sure that we picked US Central in our case. So everything that we put in there is going to be inside of that one box, and everything is going to be connected and attached to itself. All right. So the deployment is underway. So we can actually get out of this window and proceed to create a couple of more virtual machines. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to create a virtual machine
server. So I'm going to create a new one, going to click on there, and you can see it's processing over here, and that's perfectly fine. We already told it, go ahead and do this, and it already has its settings, and it's just doing its thing in the background. We're going to do the same thing for, let's see here, we're going to just pick a server. We're going to, I think I want to do 2019. So again, we're going to do a resource group. We're going to select Azure tutorial, and I'm going to name it Windows Serve 2019 VM. Make sure it's US Central, and I'm going to select Windows Server 2019 Data Center. I'm going to go back here and change to our standard if available. We're going to standard type of CPU processing. It's this one, this is the first one. I'm going to select that. And again, if you're creating a server and you needed to do a certain amount of processing, you can certainly change this at any time, even after you deploy it. So you can stop the service and later on change these settings on any of these virtual machines. I'm going to create our administrator password and login. Just a moment here. I'm trying to remember, there are thousands of passwords that I have for a bunch of different things. Trying to get a unique password for everything is a bit difficult. So again, we're going to leave the RDP open so that way we can access it, and I'm going to click review and create. And yes, you can go into more detail and specify the type of things you want on it. What does it say? It errored out. Required information is missing. What did we miss? Basics. Oh, I made it too long. The name of the virtual machine. All right. Anyways, we're going to click review and create. So yeah, you can go in there and specify the disk sizes and which network you want to use. But again, this is going to automatically put it into the network that you need to. But if you want to go in and specify disks, you can go in there and specify type of disk you want. If you want the premium, you can certainly do so. You can add, attach a disk on it. This is all virtually, you can virtually do this in any type of virtual machine that you set up. And then if you go to networking, you can specify the network, but again, it's automatically going to put you into the correct network, so I'm not too worried about that. And there are some other things you can check and adjust, but again, I want to keep this very simple so that anybody can get this going on their own. All right, so review and create. Now it should let us, it should approve the deployment of it once it thinks about it a little bit here, and then we're going to click create, excuse me, and then we're going to deploy this machine as well. It may take a little time. These are not the fastest when it comes to creating virtual machine, but it is pretty, I should say, it's pretty common to have this type of thing happening whenever you're using Google. Well, I say Google because I use Google quite often, but when you use cloud services of this sort. But I digress. It is pretty fast, considering that it installs an operating system on a virtual machine. Okay, let's see what our process or what our status is. It's still deploying the first one. Let's see here. You can see right here that once I clicked on the little bell that I have $197 in credit remaining. I'm just going to leave it here in this window for a minute, and you can see here what it's kind of doing when it's deploying. It's creating that, the virtual machines, and then it's reserving an IP address for it as well, and it's kind of telling you that it is putting it in the correct network. All right, let me see here. You know what? Let's go ahead and do another virtual machine, but this time we're going to do a Linux machine, and yeah, the first one is still creating. While we do that, I'm going to execute the other one. Execute the deployment of our third virtual machine, which is going to be a Linux. So here we are again, resource group. We're going to make sure we check Azure tutorials, and I'm going to type in Linux for the name of this virtual machine. And I'm going to actually label it Ubuntu because I'm going to select Ubuntu. Region is US Central again, and then I'm just going to leave it here on Ubuntu server 1804. Then again, you have different options for different types of Linuxes. And I'm going to go back here and select our standard type of machine for Linux. And I certainly don't want to use the slowest one. And yep, that's the one. I'm going to select that. And when it comes to Ubuntu or Linux, there are a couple of different ways you can access it. You can use SSH public key. So this is kind of confusing, and this is another topic that we would have to talk about and explain. But it's just a different way of encryption access that you can use, and then use a key to access it. But that's confusing. I don't want to talk about that. I'm just going to keep it to simple username and password, just like we have on the other one, just to keep it simple. And the reason I'm doing this, guys, is because I have people who are new to computers that watch my content. I can talk about SSH public keys and this and that, but let's keep it simple, guys. I'm just going to keep it simple. So here we can change it, different sendings for the inbound ports. By the way, if you are going to run a web server here, you can select to have it open for those as well here. This will allow all IP addresses to access your virtual machine. Now, if you're going to use this type of setup, you don't have to. If you don't want to, typically you would just leave the SSH because you don't want to keep yourself, open yourself up for the intrusion. Once you set up a web server, you'll have a way to access it through the web server interface. So you don't necessarily have to have these HTTPS open at this time at all. So you can leave just SSH because that's typically how you would access a Linux server because it's a command line anyways. So I would just kind of leave it at SSH and for that. Once you deploy a web server, for example, you can block access to SSH externally. There are different ways of doing it. You can use it you can use configuration on the server itself to block access to SSH ports. But again, we're going to just kind of leave it at that for now. I'm going to click review and create. And then once it approves our deployment, we're going to click create. So keep it moving. Otherwise, this video would have been God knows how long if I kept talking about every detail of things, and it would be confusing as well. Okay, let's see. I'm just waiting for this window to go to the next window to kind of confirm to me that it's submitted for deployment. And hopefully our Windows 10, the first virtual machine, is deployed already. Now I'm just kind of checking to see if everything is going right. Okay, good. Your deployment is underway. All right, so I'm going to go back home. I'm going to click on home. You can go back to home and see the things that we've touched on recently. And it takes a while to update, actually, right here. It takes a bit to update, but this is what would show up typically of the new things that we've touched on or created or adjusted. And it also does that in the dashboard. If we go to the dashboard, okay, good. We got a message here that deployment succeeded for one of our virtual machines. We're going to check that here in a minute, but you know what? Let's pin it to dashboard because I wanted to go to dashboard anyways. That was my next. I'm going to pin it to dashboard, so let's see what that is. So next thing under home here is dashboard. So we're going to click on dashboard to see what's there. All right. Looks like our Windows server is deployed. Oh, where's our Windows 10? That's kind of weird. Didn't we have Windows 10 machine deployed as well? Did that succeed or not? All right. Well, let's go to resources. I'm going to click on go to resources. Windows Server 2019. Oh, this already deployed, but not the Windows 10 that I asked for. Okay. Well, let's go to our virtual machines again and see if it's there. Oh, it's still creating it. That's interesting. So Windows Server 2019 actually deployed faster than Windows 10. It's still creating it. Huh, that's very interesting. Anyways, let's go ahead and see the overview of Windows Server 2019. So again, we are on virtual machines, and this will show you all the other ones that we created as well. So we're missing a Linux here, which is still being created, and it takes a while to refresh to see. So we're going to click on Windows Server because supposedly that one is already deployed. We can see our public IP address of it, and we can here connect to it. But I kind of wanted to show you overview of it in the sense to see what is there for you to actually look at besides just regular information that is there. I mean, yeah, sure, you can see the IP address on it, you can see the subscription ID, computer name if available, but and then type of CPU that you're running and this and that. And you should be able to change this once you click stop, and that's a topic for another video. But right now I wanted to show you what is kind of important as an Azure administrator, and that is monitoring. Now, you can see that there are four different graphs here, and that are kind of the reason there are four and these specific ones because these are kind of the most important ones that you would want to look at. First one is being CPU average. This is the usage of your CPU, and the next one is network usage. Disk bytes, which involves read and write bytes at any given time. You can see it gives you how much on the left column here, and on the bottom it tells you the time of it, and also it gives you disk read and disk write in bytes. And then on the other one here, over here next to it, it says disk operations per second on average, and it gives you different times. The reason this is important to have is that if you suspect something suspicious going on, for example, let's say you're running a website or a web server, or you suspect attack on your server, you can look at the different times and different CPU usage, different operations on it that are happening at certain times. And this doesn't give us a good example here because it's a brand new one, but let's go ahead and connect to it, and we're going to do some stuff on it, so that way it's going to give us some data here which we can get back to, and I can kind of talk about it a little bit more, because right now it doesn't really give us enough for me to talk about. So let's go ahead and click connect here, and we're going to select RDP. Alright, so what this does, it's going to download an RDP file for us that we can just simply click and use it, just a regular Windows remote desktop protocol. So we're going to click on that, and it's going to save it. I'm just checking. Okay, you don't see the pop-up, but there's actually a pop-up that says do you want to save this file or just open it. I'm going to click open it. I'm going to click connect. I apologize, you guys don't see the login on this recording, but it is there. So what I'm doing is just typing in the password and the login that I showed you before, that I've set up upon the creation of this, and I'm going to click OK. I will show you the whatchamacallit, the remote desktop as well as soon as I get it going here. Okay, just a moment, please bear with me. I just need to add a different source, window capture. Need to capture that window, just a moment. Please bear with me. Here we go, remote desktop. Here we are. Alright, there you guys, there you go. I hope you can see it. It's loading right now. So I'm going to, let's see here. Hope it doesn't break the stupid recording window software is not being good to me. Alright, looks like it's showing the RDP there, and it's creating it. The typical thing, the first time you log in, it's going to create your local profile, and it's going to take a bit to load. It's, this is very typical. You just kind of have to wait for it to start and get going, and here it is finally coming up. So this is our Windows Server machine. Pretty soon we're going to see that Windows Server setup configuration there, and then
it's just like using a regular Windows Server machine. As if you were there. You guys know what remote desktop is. But then again, this goes to show you that you have full access to it. Okay, now I'm going to go back to that overview and kind of look at those graphs with you and tell you kind of for the things to kind of look for when it comes to monitoring this type of a system. And then I'm going to show you the other machines as well, depending how long this takes. And see, here it is. Here's that typical thing where it asks you do you want to allow this PC to be discoverable? And we're going to click yes for that. So there you go. This is typically what happens or what you see when you install Windows Server. And I'm just going to minimize this and go back to our Azure window. Okay, there we are. Okay, so we're going to click on Overview again, just so you can see all the things that are happening on the Windows 2019 server. So since we've logged into it, we saw more activity. Now we can see that at this time, which is at 12:13 p.m., we can see that there is more CPU activity. As a matter of fact, they spiked to almost 100%. And at the same time, you can see that it kind of moves the other diagrams or graphs at the same time, so that way you can see what is going on at the same time. So it kind of aligns it for you. And now you can see there is more read and write, which is pretty normal. It gives you the disk reads down here where it says 137 megabytes, and then disk writes are 483 megabytes. So this is happening as we are creating our local profile. And at the same time, we see some network activity, and that is, it says Windows Server is network in total is 147 megabytes, and network out total is let's see, it's still happening. It's at 1.27 megabytes. So it downloaded 147 megabytes of data and it uploaded 1 megabyte, 1.27 megabytes. And then we get more disk operations. So why is this important? Why am I telling you about this? If you suspect somebody hacking into your system, you might want to kind of look at the spikes in the graph. Otherwise, it would be just normal, or just a little jagged like this. Normally, this is pretty normal operation, just kind of idling. But when it comes to huge spikes like this, you want to kind of look at this and see what is happening. Now, if it's just a web server and you see increase in traffic, people using your website, and you see a spike like this, but then you look at your other monitoring tools for the live traffic of people coming through and you see a spike on your server, that's normal, right? But if you suddenly see a spike at a certain time, then you might want to see if there is some kind of a attack on your server or whatnot, or if there's some kind of a, who knows, maybe even a virus happening on your computer if you have abnormal disk reads, bytes, or CPU usage. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is look at other things that are here under the overview. There are a bunch of different things here that we can look at that help you deal with this type of stuff, and things that you can change. So if you click, for example, on networking here under settings, you can look at the network settings of it and gives you more information on it. You can add inbound port rules if you want to open up different ports or not. You can, at the same time, you can disable one. So here's our RDP here, and we can disable it if we want. So if you're occasionally accessing this Windows Server using the RDP, you might want to delete it, so that way you're more protected. Nobody can really try to access it afterwards. And then same thing when it comes to disks. If you click on disks here, you can make changes to it if you'd like. A lot of times we have to stop the service from running. I'm not exactly sure if that's the case here with the Azure systems. We can certainly try that. And then we got a bunch of different monitoring things that we can look at. So one of the things that I showed you there are those graphs, and there is a different way to look at that as well if you want a more customized and cleaner way of doing it. If you click on the little hamburger thing, sign, you can go down here and select monitor, and you can look at monitoring metrics of it. So if you click here, explore metrics, you can add different graphs that you can look at. Again, I don't want to confuse you too much with this. Again, this is just another way of looking at the same thing, except in a more
detailed manner where you can make adjustments and change the different metrics that you want to look at. And here's just a real quick, if we click here on the scope, this allows you to select our resource. So if we select our Azure subscription 1, we know this is where our resource group is at. And then we can click Azure tutorial, and then we're going to look down here for our server. And for some reason it's not scrolling down, but that's okay, no problem. We know that we have that service. I'm going to click on resource type. I'm going to uncheck select all. I'm going to just click virtual machines because that's the only thing I want to look at for now. And I'm going to close that, and now it's going to come up and say, well, you have 3 virtual machines. Which ones do you want to monitor? I'm going to click Windows Server 2019. I'm going to select that, and now it's asking me to select a metric. So we can kind of replicate to what we've seen previously. We can kind of select, I don't know, let's see, disk read operations per second. We had that over there, and then the graph is going to come up and show us. You can see here there's that. Then we can add more to it, or we can add another metric, and in a way where you can just select, what was the other one, network out total. Let's see, where's our network in total, I should say, and there was an out as well, and it gives you that. And they give you kind of side by side, but if you want them to kind of stack on top of each other, you can certainly do that as well. I'm just going to move it to the right here to move the timeline, but again, there's not much going on right now, so there really isn't much to look at. And let me just try it one more here. CPU, I want to look for the CPU one. Percentage CPU, here we go. Average, okay. And it gives you, see, it's just not enough for us to kind of visualize. Anyways, the machine is just too new for us to actually, for this to work properly, because it hasn't even replicated completely. We know there's a lot more going on. It's just that it takes time, and these things kind of take time to replicate for you to use this properly. But anyways, it's all here. It's just a different way of looking at it. And if you want to get in more, in-depth analysis of what's going on with the usage of that machine, you can certainly do that. All right, let's go to other virtual machines. We can look at Windows 10, but it's kind of the same thing. Yeah, I went ahead and stopped it early. I don't know if you guys seen that, but I went ahead and stopped it from working. But it's because the way I access it is the same as Windows Server 2019. I just wanted to show you that you can deploy that. Let's go ahead and click our Linux Ubuntu machine. The way you can connect to this is if you click on the connect, you can use SSH, you can use RDP. But if we click on RDP, you can see that we have to install certain things on our computer in order to access this. This is not going to actually work. So if I click download RDP, it's not going to actually let me work to it. Typically you would, and it's closed. We know that the port is closed anyways. So we can choose to connect with SSH with the key thing, this and that, but I don't want to do that. There's an easiest way to connect to this, and if you scroll down under this all the way down, there is a thing called Serial Console. So if we click on that, it will give us the same access as if it was SSH, I believe. Now, it's going to ask us for our password, so we can actually have access to our console. But once we go in there, it's just the easier way to accessing it. As soon as it comes up here, it's going to ask us for our password, and we're going to be able to, browse it. Just that, once you, the only difference is that it's not a pop-out window, and for me it actually works out for me to show you like this. And okay, log in. I'm going to type in my login name, and then I'm going to type in my password. I'm going to hit enter, and as soon as it thinks about it, we will have access, and there it is. We have full access to this server. So if we do, for example, ls-a, it's going to show us what's inside of these different folders, and we can make adjustments, update it, do all kinds of different things. We can create more monitoring. We can install different get app system analysis monitoring things that we can do. Okay, Anyways, this is how you can access the Linux server and just kind of, go through it and look at different things. But right now, we're just going to show you some, let's see here, CDVR, VAR, LS, and just kind of to show you that you can go in and browse. If you want to, run something, you can just type in sudo, which is super user, invoking a super user, and then, I don't know, you can just type in sudo, I don't know, VI, and this is going to create a new document. This is just, regular document that you can create and, install on there and whatnot. And yeah, so there you go, guys. This is the intro to Microsoft Azure virtual machines. I hope you like this video. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you like my style of teaching. It's really hard to teach without being super technical, so I'm really trying my best not to sound too confusing, because if I was to go into Linux here and try to do all kinds of different things, it would be way too much in just one video for a person to absorb. I'm not saying everybody, because a lot of people are knowledgeable and that they would like to see this type of stuff, but I do want to teach everybody, at least give them some kind of confidence to kind of get into this type of stuff to start with. And once they get into it, then they can, learn more about it on their own, or watching or learning, or from other people and this and that. But the best way to learn is to actually get in there and try, do things on it. All right. In the next video, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss it. I will talk about storage containers. We're going to use some scripting to add the storage containers. We're going to create some file shares and how to go in there and add them to different machines. And it's pretty cool stuff, guys. All right. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Hello, my friends. My name is Irvin, also known as cobuman. Today we're talking about Hyper-V. What is Hyper-V? Let me show you what Hyper-V is. Hyper-V Manager is a Microsoft version of a virtual machine creating software. And that sounds kind of funny, but basically it allows you to create a virtual machine of any operating system, test it out, and basically for experimenting. But you can also use it as something that runs on your machine, and that way you can create multiple virtual machines, this and that. Anyways, we're gonna test that out. I don't have a whole lot of experience with this, so I'm gonna be learning with you guys as well. I normally use Oracle VM, a virtual machine VirtualBox for this type of stuff, so I'll be learning as well. This does not come installed by default on Windows machines, so you have to basically go inside of your add remove programs. Let's see, where is that? Programs and features, and then you have to turn Windows features on and off. So once you go in here, you have to find Hyper-V, select it, make sure it's selected, click OK, and then it's going to update it and restart your machine, and then you will have Hyper-V installed. All right, let's have a look at Hyper-V, what we have here. And it looks like there are options here to quick create, which I'm assuming allows you to create a quick virtual machine, which is cool. But let's look at the Hyper-V settings here. So what we have. Once we select this here, the first thing that we see is that it's asking you to specify the location of virtual disk. This is the default location for the virtual hard disk, and you can change this if you want, but I'm pretty happy with the settings here. It looks like it creates a specific folder for it inside of documents, and I'm perfectly happy with that. Next thing down is the location of, or the installation of your actual virtual machine, and looks like the default folder is set to Windows Hyper-V. Again, I'm okay with that because it created a separate folder for that, so it's not gonna have files all over the place, which is pretty expected. Third thing down is physical GPUs, and looks like you can select different GPU for it, which is pretty cool actually. And use this GPU with the remote FX. Okay, that's cool. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. Of course, if you have another GPU, you can certainly do so. So here's actually a pretty good thing here. So if you have a GPU installed, you can still just select this one, which is the onboard embedded into the processor. So you can just run it off of that instead of using your main GPU, which is pretty cool. NUMA spanning. I don't know what this is. You can configure Hyper-V to allow virtual machines to span non-uniform memory architecture. Oh, okay, that's what that is. When the physical computer has NUMA modes, this setting provides virtual machines with additional computing resources. Okay, so that's what that does. It allows you to run more virtual machines at the same time. Allow virtual machines to span. Okay, well that's cool. I'm not 100% sure what that is. If somebody's more familiar about this, please let me know in the comments below. I really would like to learn more about this. But it basically looks like it allows you to run, more virtual machines at the same time, which is cool. Storage migration. You can specify how many storage migrations can be performed at the same time on this computer. So this basically allows simultaneous storage migrations are allowed. So 2. Okay, well that's fine. That's just self-explanatory. There's really nothing to talk about that. Enhanced session mode policy. You can configure Hyper-V to allow enhanced session mode connections to virtual machines running on this server. So enhanced session mode allows redirect of local devices and resources from a computer running virtual machine. So basically what it does, it allows you to use all the peripherals, all the extensions of all the software or all the hardware that's also installed, I should say, on your computer. So it's an extension of that. Basically, if you want to use internet, this allows you to do so. Basically, we'll create an extension of your adapter, for example, here. You know what I mean? So that's what that allows. Enhanced session mode requires a supported guest operating system. It may require additional configure. Anyways, so that's what that does. The other option here is use of keyboard. It lets you basically use physical computer, use the virtual machine type of keyboard that you want. Mouse release key, enhanced session mode. And how do you want to configure virtual machine connections to operate when enhanced session mode is available in guest operating system? So this is kind of what I talked about earlier. Okay, and the last thing here is just lets you to reset everything there. Okay, I'm just going to leave that at default, and I'm assuming there's going to be more stuff to do when it comes to setup. So let's go to quick create. I apologize, guys. It's one of those days where it's just like I may have had too much coffee or not enough coffee. We'll see. So the first option that comes up is installing a virtual machine that basically does the MSIX packaging tool. Allows you to update the existing Windows 32 application installers to the MSXI format. Simply launch MSI package tool from the start menu to get started. So this is used basically to update all the applications that you have packaged yourself. If you want to make if you want to make changes or additions to the software that you've packaged before, this is what that virtual machine does. Another option here is to install Ubuntu 18.04. The other option is 19.04. And then we have Windows 10 dev environment. For the fun of it, let's go ahead and leave it with Windows 10. I'm going to create a virtual machine. So what this is doing is actually automatically downloading it, which is pretty sweet. On some other software, like for example Oracle here, Oracle VM VirtualBox, you have to actually find the image that you want to use. That's a good thing. Okay, so this is a good thing, I suppose. This makes it easier. You don't have to go fetch it and this and that, unless there's an option to, allow more options here, which I kind of didn't catch there for a moment. But let me see. Does it allow me to pull up another one here? Yes, it does. So this allows you to install local installation source as well. Well, that's pretty cool. So when you click it, you can just have to select the image that you want. So that's cool. For a second, I thought it didn't have that. So I'm just going to wait for it to install Windows 10 development environment. It's actually a really large size, which is kind of surprising. So I'm going to fast forward the video to the point where it's done installing, and then we're going to test that out. Anyways, it's the same in Oracle VirtualBox, but Oracle VirtualBox is actually a bit more complicated than this, but it does allow you to do more compared to Hyper-V. But you know what? I digress. Let's see how well this performs after we install everything. So as this is completing, I want to talk about real quick about the reason why you would want to do virtual machine. Main reason for me is to learn how to use other operating system. For example, we could have installed Ubuntu on there and just kind of play around with it. But in this case, I'm just going to install Windows 10 because it's a random thing I picked, to be honest. But when it comes down to it, you really want to have enough RAM on your computer to run virtual machines The reason for that being is, aside from testing new operating systems like Ubuntu or just different versions of Linux, if you want to run an actual server, you want to make sure you have enough RAM and CPU power allocated for that environment, for that virtual environment, right? See, this computer only has 4 gigs of RAM, so it'll be interesting to see how well that actually handles it. I suspect that it might be okay just for a little bit, but I mean, you know, as you can see, this computer itself, just to run, which is Windows 10 obviously, is using 2.5. So we'll see how well that runs. So if you want to run especially multiple virtual machines, you might want to add a lot more RAM. And I have a video on basically building a machine that, you know, does that, specifically designed for virtual machines. I can go ahead and link at the end of this video so you guys can check it out. Okay, extracting disk from image archive took a bit because I probably selected installation to be done on a magnetic hard drive. So let's see what happens here. Virtual machine created successfully. And we have 2 options here. It says connect and edit settings. I'm going to click edit settings because I want to see what's going on here. These are some of the settings here. And it looks like you can add certain hardware. You can add SCSI controllers, network adapters, and this and that. Now, what is this? Remote FX 3D video adapter nibbles. Wow, so that's pretty cool. You can add a GPU, I guess, that does the processing. That's really cool. That's something I would want to look into, like if somebody wants to, because, you know, I don't know if you guys heard of PCs that you can set up. It's like a central PC, but it has really powerful GPU. You can possibly set up virtual machines that allows multiple users to connect to it and use the resources of that, and basically share that CPU and GPU power through the virtual machine. That's really cool, actually. Fiber channel adapter. And let's see what else. Firmware, default switch, secure boot enabled. Okay, that's cool. Memory allocated by default looks like 2 gigabytes. So we'll see how well that goes. And it looks like dynamic memory is available. Basically, it's virtual memory. Wow. Okay. All right, that's cool. It assigned 2 virtual processors out of 4 that I have, so I'm okay with that. But looks like you can tweak any of these things. So if you wanted to add more RAM or, you know, less, you can do that. They can adjust the amount of CPUs used. Network adapter uses a default switch, a virtual switch. Basically, it's just going to route it through my network adapter down here, which is normal. And then we get some management down here. Checkpoints. This is something that let's see here. By the way, I changed the path for the image itself because I didn't have enough room on C. So if you remember that earlier, I actually changed it to my D drive. Anyways, that's pretty cool so far. It doesn't seem like anything complicated. Looks like everything is already set up properly. So let's see what happens. Okay, the virtual machine is turned off. Okay, let's start it. So let's see here. I'm going to make this bigger here, hopefully. Let's see, how do I do that? Windows 10 environment failed. The virtual machine Windows 10 could not be set up because hypervisor is not running. What is hypervisor? Huh. So far it was great, and then suddenly it's not running. So whenever you get an error like that, it says hypervisor is not running, for example, or something is not running, that means that there's usually a service that's not running in the background. So we're going to check that here right now. All right, let's open up our task manager and look at services. Hypervisor. Let's see if we can find hypervisor in here. Hypervisor. Hypervisor. H. I don't see it. I probably should have sorted by name, right? Okay. A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay. That's how I know my alphabet. I have to actually recall it. All right. HV host, which I'm assuming is the one that we need, because you know it says HV and hypervisor, but I wanted to see more detail about it. It says it stopped there. Okay, here we go. We're gonna squeeze this through. There it is. I wanted to expand this here a little bit here. You can says it stopped here. Local system network restriction. So we're going to right click and start it. By the way, you can change this to start up automatically. This is done in the services menu. So if you open services, you can tell it to start automatically if you want this to run all the time. Here we go. Here's the Hyper-V host service. And right now it's set to manual, and you can change that to start automatically. Anyways, I'm going to minimize that. Wow, it crashed my computer. It crashed my computer. Oh, there it is. There it is. Wow. There you go, guys. If you don't have enough RAM, this is not something you necessarily want to do. All right, let's try it again. I'm just going to continue, see if it'll start now. Hypervisor is not running. All right, well, maybe that wasn't it. Let's trigger it here from the services. Start. A device attached to the system is not functioning. That's interesting. Huh. Remote desktop, heartbeat service. I'm going to do a reboot of this computer, see if that helps. This might resolve our issues. I'm just going to go do a reboot real quick, then I'm going to start this again. All right, let's try this again. Here we go. Here we go. After reboot, we're going to launch our Hyper-V manager. And there's our Windows 10 environment that we installed earlier. We're going to try it again. Hopefully the Hyper-V, everything that it needs to run is running. Connect. I'm going to start it. Okay, it's trying to start. Oh, error again. Hypervisor is not running. All right, let's try it again. I feel like I really shouldn't have to do it. Maybe there are limitations, or run it like not enough RAM, it won't run or something like that. But you can see it stopped there again. It stopped again. It won't start. Start. Huh. All right, well, let's go to services. This is very interesting. This is a good way to learn to do some of the troubleshooting. Host service. Device attached to the system is not functioning. Okay, let's see what that means. I don't know what it means because, as I've stated, I haven't used this application before, so let's find out together what that means. A device attached to the system is not functioning. Is not functioning. Let's see what happens. Here we go. JackieChan.org talking about the same error. All right, let's go to this first one. So this dude's getting the same error. I had an identical problem, was fortunately able to fix it. All I need to do is remove Hyper-V using Control Panel, restart Windows, reinstall all Hyper-V components, and restart Windows. I found that Hyper-V host service was already running, could not be even started manually before these changes. See, this is something I shouldn't have to do. Like, really. This may fix it, but really, like, I've never used it, as you guys saw. This is the only instance that I've installed on there. First time using it, and it does that. That's very, very, very disappointing. I kind of hate to see this come to an end like so. But if this is the fix for it, to reinstall everything, then at this point I don't really want to use it. You know what I mean? And I cannot, I mean, maybe it's just bad luck here, but I mean, if this issue's been around since 2015 and it happens like so in 2019, then I mean, look, actually since 2013. And there's no clear-cut like answer pointing me to what the problem is. So yeah, I'm just not gonna use it. You know, I'm just gonna use videos created for youtube.com/cobuman channel and combined to provide a single point in learning help desk. What you will learn here is based off personal experience and opinion of what you must know before starting IT help desk. Yes, this video is specifically designed to help you get a help desk job. Below is a list of each topic presented in its format as a basic start to help desk. Make sure you watch the entire video so that you become familiar with help desk knowledge and procedures. For the first video, we have an introduction. Can anyone get an IT help desk job without experience? For a second video, we have top 20 most common desktop PC support issues and solutions. For the third video, we have help desk and customer service call handling procedures.
Hello, welcome to a tutorial video on how to get an IT job without any experience. This is a simple step-by-step guide that should provide the basic guidance needed to succeed. This preparation method can be applied to other jobs and not just IT. Keep in mind that this video is going to be very direct without any sugarcoating. Yes, it is a bit harder to get a job with no experience, but with time and patience, it will get you there. You just need to get your foot in the door. After you acquire some experience, it will be much easier to get even better positions in IT. Number 1, you need a good resume. For this part, I need you to pause the video, look up an example of IT resume in Google, and have it side by side so that you can follow along. After you have a resume up, play the video again. Keep in mind that you can adjust resume titles to what works best for you. On your resume, under Experience, list anything you have done related to IT. Let's say you know how to build computers. You would list that. Let's say you know how to set up a server. You would list that. Let's say you know how to build a website. You would list that. Let's say you have a good customer service experience working somewhere. You would list that. Just keep adding information by yourself that may be related in any way to the job you are applying for. You do not need more than 1 page for resume size, so it should be easy to fill out. Therefore, when it comes down to it, you do have some experience. Number 2, when applying for a job, always provide a cover letter to why you are interested in this job and why they should hire you. For this part, talk about how you have the knowledge for this specific job. Sure, you can mention that you have the ability to learn, but it's best to keep facts in reality. Some employers may be looking for someone to teach a new job, but most are looking for someone who can do the job already. Number 3, be prepared for interview questions for the job you're applying for. A good place to start is my own YouTube/cobuman channel that has a variety of different interview questions and answers for multiple IT jobs. Number 4, fear. There's nothing to be nervous about because recruiters know exactly what to expect by reading your resume. Think of it this way: even if you don't get the job, going through some interviews is a good learning experience. Go to the interviews for purpose of learning and getting better, which is something that will come on its own, but only with practice. With so many jobs out there, you are bound to get one for sure. You may not get the first one or second one, but that third interview, you will know exactly what to expect, and being scared will go away. Just be friendly, smile, and act professional. This could be the main reason for getting a job, especially when it comes down to multiple candidates for the same job. Employer will usually pick the friendly and polite person if given a choice between similar applicants. You need to trust in your knowledge. Experience will come on its own, but only when you try. Number 5, interview dress code is important. Formal suit is the safe way to go about it and shows that you are very serious. However, you could wear business casual attire, which consists of dress pants, dress shoes, dress shirt, or polo style shirt. Lastly, please do me a favor and either share or like this video with anyone who may need help getting a good job. So many folks out there could use this type of guidance. Thank you all so much.
Congratulations, you've made it through the first part of the video. And before we start the second part, I just wanted to quickly mention that I have some cool design t-shirts available below the video if you're interested in supporting me and my content. Thank you.
Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining me on this fun and educational video. What comes next are some of the most common desktop support issues that you can expect to encounter during your tech support adventures. All issues are randomly sorted from super easy to funny, so sit back, relax, and let's have some fun. Mouse is not working, or it has sticky keys. The cause for this could be dirt or spilled drinks. But the solution for this is to replace the mouse. Keep in mind, mouse you can't really clean up like you used to. Back in the day, you have those old mice that had a ball inside, and you can unscrew the bottom of it. You kind of pop it open. You pop the little ball out, and then you can clean the little rollers around it, and they can like fix the mouse. But if you had a sticky key on it, you can't really fix it, Not, regular people like us, This is, and the mice are so cheap. So in this situation, you would just replace the mouse.
Issue number 2, keyboard is not working properly or it has sticky keys. The cause of this could be dirt or spilled drinks. Solution is to replace the keyboard. So similar to replacing the mouse, keyboards, you can't, it's really hard to clean if you clean it if you spill something. Sure, there are, spill resistant keyboards out there, but you're not going to find something at a business place, something like that, because they tend to be more expensive, and just the regular keyboards are cheap, so just replace it. Issue number 3, monitor is not working. Cause for this could be power button not pressed, loose power cable, loose video signal cable, or just a bad monitor. Solution to this is to press the power button, check the cables, or replace the monitor. Issue number 4, computer has no network connection. The cause for this could be network cable disconnect. It could be also a bad network cable, but that's very that doesn't happen often. It is possible, but it does not happen often. The solution to this is to plug in the network cable or replace the network cable. Issue number 5, a specific website is not working. Cause for this could be that specific website may be down, or user has the wrong or mistyped link. It happens. The solution to this would be, if it's an internal website, contact support for that website. So if it's an internal website, chances are you will have, that has access to the server. But if it's an external, wait for it to come back. There's really not much you can do if google.com goes down. And then afterwards, have user try the correct website link. Issue number 6, files or data is missing. The cause for this could be user deleted this data, or user forgot to save data, and in some cases user moved the data or files into another folder. So it'd be a sticky key. You know how occasionally you would try to click on something and you would still be holding on to the file that you're trying to click on, and then you just accidentally drag it into another folder. The solution to this is to attempt to recover data if possible through Windows Restore or backup solution. A bunch of emails that have attachments, or you just have thousands of emails, chances are it will fill up fairly quickly, and it will go beyond that 200 megabytes, at which point you cannot receive any more or even send any more emails. Okay, and the part about Windows password not set is basically the Outlook, Microsoft Outlook is asking for your new Windows password. So this happens a lot when someone has changed their password within Windows, but they haven't updated their Outlook. Okay, is not installed. User trying to use another printer out of paper or ink. The solution to this is to install the printer, change default printer, and add paper or ink. Issue number 9, computer is slow. Cause, computer is installing delayed updates. This happens if user turns off the computer after their shift. Low RAM could be the cause, or bad hard drive. Solution, educate user to not turn off the computer at the end of the day. RAM, change hard drive, or just Issue number 12, user can't log into PC. User cannot log into PC. A very, very common one. I get this call every day. The cause is wrong password, user locked out of their account, or they have caps lock key on. So the solution to this would be reset the password, enable their account, and tell them to disable the caps lock. Very simple. Issue number 13. Computer restarts for no reason. The cause for this, most of the time, is computer installing delayed updates. Occasionally, the cause for this would be a computer stuck in a loop, most likely trying to install some kind of update or software. That's a rare case, but in most cases, it's just trying to install an update and it restarts sometimes a couple of times, you know? The solution to this is to simply wait for computer to finish installing updates. Issue number 14. Wi-Fi is slow. Cause for this? Well, a lot of times Wi-Fi is just slow. You know, it's especially, you know, I mean, anytime you're dealing with, you know, something that has to provide a signal, wireless signal, then chances are that it might become slow or not have the same bandwidth as, you know, physically connected to the network. And of course, the solution to this is connect the PC physically to the network. Issue number 15. This trouble ticket would simply state computer is not working. Cause for this? Anything you can think of. Not enough information. The solution to this is reach out to user for more information. Issue number 16. The internet is down. Cause: network cable unplugged, proxy settings changed, specific website is down. With these type of trouble tickets, they may come through with just a simple statement where it says the internet is not down. You know, the user needs to be a little bit more specific, so you kind of have to ask them for more information. Solution to this is check network cable, check proxy settings, check the website or websites that user is connecting to, you know, to make sure that they have the correct links, because sometimes user may assume that the whole internet is down, which has never happened. Issue number 17. Change the password. Now I can't log in. The cause to this is user changed the password and now they don't know it. There's a, you know, you'd be surprised how often this happens. The solution to this is to reset the password. And I gotta say, this happened quite a few times where the same user would get reset multiple times in the day. So it's user error, basically. One of my favorites, issue number 18. Nothing is working. Cause: user is having a mental breakdown. The solution to this is to replace the PC or replace the user. Issue number 19. I need access to the Q drive. Cause for this: user either needs login access to the Q drive or needs it mapped to their PC. Solution to this is ask user, what is this Q drive? I mean, it could be any number of network paths. There are a lot of shared drives, network shared drives out there. You know, just saying that it's a Q drive doesn't tell us much. You can name the drives anything you want. Once the actual name of the network path is determined, ask user if they need their credential access or add it to their PC. So chances are the user could mean that they don't actually have credential access to it. So that means even if it's added to their computer, even if it's mapped to their computer, they won't be able to get in. They could mean that. We don't know. So we just have to find out. Issue number 20. Computer crashed.
What could be the cause to this? Hardware or driver issues. You have to do the diagnostic of the hardware and the software to determine what caused the crash. You can go back to the system log files and see what caused it. Solution is ask user how and what they were doing when it crashed to help you narrow it down. And then, of course, like I said, perform system diagnostic if needed.
Welcome to Help Desk Call Handling Procedures. My name is Irvin, also known as cobuman. One of my viewers recently asked me if there is a call handling format for Help Desk. The answer is yes. There is a format to follow, but this varies from business to business. However, every help desk has a common path to follow that basically achieves the same goal, which is to resolve issues. There could be multiple steps to handling just the intro. In this example, I have broken down the procedure in 7 steps that should reflect the professionalism and call handling proficiency. Step number 1. Thank you for calling tech support. My name is Irvin. May I have your phone number, account number, or etc. so that I can pull up your information? And if you've noticed at the end, I have phone number, account number, or etc. because this will vary from business to business. Some businesses may train you to ask for the phone number first. Some may say ask for the account number first, or anything else. Number 2. In order to secure your account, can you please verify your date of birth, last 4 of social security number, or etc. If you don't have this information, that's okay. We can also secure your account by answering some questions. As you notice, the second part is usually to secure the account to make sure that we are speaking to the customer or the user. A lot of times you would ask for date of birth, last 4 of social security number, or etc. For example, to verify their home address. If they don't have this information, some companies also use a format in which customer answers some questions that they've set up previously. For example, what is the name brand of the car that you owned, or what is the name of your pet? Number 3, listen to the customer's issue carefully and then ask questions based off previous experiences. This comes after you are familiar with company's products or services. Each business will train their associates to familiarize themselves with different issues and procedures. So let's say this product I bought is no longer working, or there's something wrong with it. Of course, you will have the training from the business that you work for to handle this properly. You just have to make sure you pay attention and ask proper questions based off your experience, whether it be from training or simply from many calls that you've handled in the past. Number 4. I'm sorry, would you mind repeating that? Something your issue. And the reason for this is because it reflects on good customer service. However, the underlying reason for this is production. The business you work for wants you to be very productive and resolve issues as efficiently as possible. Step number 6. Is there anything else that I can assist you with? Or have I resolved your issue? As closing, do not hang up on the customer until the customer says either yes or no, confirming that their issue has been resolved. The last thing we want is to hang up on the customer and their issue has not been resolved. This reflects poorly on the company and the service that customer service provides. This is incredibly important. Thank you for calling tech support. You have a wonderful day. At this point, you're just ending a call with a nice gesture. However, some businesses will have you ask the customer to take a survey. This will vary from business to business, of course. This concludes our video. keep in mind that some aspects of help desk are omitted because they are to the company you may work for. For example, a basic issue that is handled by IT help desk is resetting, changing user passwords, which is done by and not necessarily through Active Directory. However, I have videos on many of these topics, including desktop support, network administration, system administration, NOC support, and much more. If you think this information is useful and appreciate my effort, please share this video with your friends, and I appreciate all of your support. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Hello, welcome my friends. My name is Irvin, also known as cobuman. Today's video is all about virtual machines. I'm going to explain what the virtual machines are, how they function, how they're set up, and how you can install them to play around with different operating systems for yourself. In this case, we're going to use Microsoft's Hyper-V software that comes with Windows operating system. It doesn't come installed by default, but you can install it as part of Microsoft operating system, and I will show you how to do that. It's pretty simple. However, I believe it only comes with Microsoft Windows 10 Professional and or Enterprise. I don't think it comes with Home, but it will show you how to install it nonetheless. It's pretty simple, but it's want to experiment with different operating system and like to learn about them. Really cool stuff. Alright guys, if you got 1 second, please click the like button. It only takes 1 second and it really makes a big difference for me, especially if you appreciate this type of content. Thank you so much, I appreciate it. Alright, first thing first, here is our computer that we're remoted in that we're going to use for our virtual machines. And we got to install Hyper-V, because in this video we're going to talk about Hyper-V. We're going to install this program which will allow us to run these around with them. The way you install Hyper-V in Windows operating system is if you go to your apps and features, and then you go here into programs and features. This is the old school of add, remove, or uninstall programs that you will normally see in like older operating systems like Windows 7. And what we were looking for is actually turn Windows features on or off. Remember how I said it's actually part of Windows operating system? This is exactly what I meant. So it's very simple. From here on, you have to make sure that Hyper-V right here is selected like so. And then once you click OK, it's going to download it, install it, and it's going to reboot your computer. The reason it's going to reboot your computer anytime you install a virtual software is because it has to use your hardware as an extension in order to work. So for example, things like network adapters, CPU, RAM, a video card memory, and all that type of stuff. So it has to do a quick reboot, so that way it knows how to create an extension of those into those virtual machines, because we're making a virtual PC and it has to have some kind of hardware associated with that to work. It's its own thing. This is why you can have a server somewhere in a data center. Imagine a rack server. I'm going to put a picture of it right now. This is kind of looks like these servers are just on racks in big data centers somewhere in some building where AC is running really cold to keep them cool. And these servers can have many different virtual machines on them. And that's the whole point of creating a virtual machine, is that, for example, you can have 10 different websites. You can have 10 different web servers, for example, running on a single server. And that's the great thing about virtual machines. If you have enough RAM, if you have enough processing power, you can run as many virtual machines as possible. So instead of just having one computer that's not using all of its resources, now you can have multiple virtual computers on that one computer or a server. So let me just kind of show you here just a brief example of what I kind of mean here. You can see that I have a CPU here, and this CPU has 8 processing threads. It says 8 logical processors right here. And it's an i7, and this is why it has this. This is an older i7, but it's still pretty good processor. But it has 8 logical processors. On these 8 logical, you can potentially run 4 different instances of virtual machines, because you can literally split those into 2 for each. So 2 times 4 is 8. You can have 4 different virtual machines running off of this one single CPU, as long as they're not super intensive. And of course, you got to have enough RAM. And you can see here that I have a total of 16 gigabytes of RAM, and then you can split that RAM amongst those servers. In a realistic scenario, since this is not a server computer, in this case, if I wanted to have two really good virtual machines, I would just run 2 to 3 maybe, because you can see that the system itself is using up quite a bit of RAM just to kind of function. You know what I mean? And that's more RAM. I can, of course, even make that even greater. So that explains the hardware part of it, of how virtual machines are created on actual hardware. So it creates those mini copies of themselves, if you will. They're not as good, but they're good enough to do certain things. Again, I used an example of a web servers, which is very typical to see if you're familiar with the cloud storage and cloud computing. That's all they are. They're all virtual machines running off of different servers and different hardware platforms. But when it comes to setup, is something we're going to talk about right now. All right, so when you initially start this, it's going to be blank here. There'll be no virtual machines, but you can click Create New. So we're going to click Quick Create New. Once this loads up, you can see that it actually offers you some typical stuff you can install on a virtual machine. This is just the kind of a thing that you can just literally click Create Virtual Machine. It's going to create it, and it's going to be these specific ones. It's going to click Change Installation Source, and now we're going to tell it to go to our desktop, which is where our virtual machines are. You can see right here, we're going to select this one here. So we're going to select that one. So we're going to do Windows 10 real quick, and we're going to click Create Virtual Machine. So what this is doing, an option that says, hey, virtual machine already created, it's already done. But that was really quick. Yeah, sure enough, it created a virtual machine, virtual computer, but we haven't installed anything yet. It just created some basic settings. And we can click connect, and it's going to keep those basic settings for the hard drive, for how much RAM is being used, everything else. But we kind of want to learn more about this. So we're going to click edit settings instead of connect. We're going to click edit settings so we can see what's all in there. Well, we certainly can. Here it is. This is our hardware, which says hardware. So if we click here on the firmware, it kind of gives you an idea of what is selected for our drive and for our network adapter. And that's kind of main things right now that we're looking at here. We can tell that we already selected the Windows ISO image, and that's fine. It's inserted in virtual. We can see that it created a new virtual machine hard drive, and we'll look at that as well. And it created the virtual hard disk that it's using here. There are different options of virtual hard disk you can create. If we click on edit, we can create our own virtual disk. And it really doesn't matter. I really haven't found that it makes any difference when it comes to performance or not, because it's all virtual anyways. There's situations where you might want to look into this, but this is not the video about that. And then the other thing we can look at, we can look at the DVD drive. I already said it's the DVD drive, virtual DVD drive that has Windows operating system inserted in it. And then we can look at the network adapter, and it's using a default switch, which you can disable it if you want, but that's pretty much what it is to it. I don't want to talk about anything else because it's going to kind of take away from the point of this video. All right, so this is how your hardware looks like. We're set to install our virtual machine, and that's what we're going to do for our other machines that we create. All right, I'm going to click connect. Where it says here the virtual machine is turned off, we can just click start. So what it's now doing is basically post. It's going to say, hey, do you want to boot? See, I missed it. See, now it's trying to boot over PXE, over the network. But what it was doing here actually was trying to boot from the CD that we've inserted. So where is that? Where can we actually remove that? Because you don't want to keep them installed. And from here, you can just install operating system, click install. It's just like you would normally do with anytime you install Windows 10. All right, let's go ahead and turn this off and or switch our ISO. We're going to switch to a different ISO. We're going to eject this one to insert different disk, and we're going to select this one, which is the Windows Server 2019. I'm going to reset it, and I'm going to hit any key, and see how this one looks a little bit different. It's going to start our Server 2019 operating system install. And then again, you just got to go through the motion, install Windows Server 2019, and then you'll have a virtual PC running. And I already have that installed, and I'll show you how that's running. So this is how I'm going to cancel this. I'm going to select, I'm going to eject this one. I'm going to insert our Linux one. And here's a Linux Mint. I just picked a random one. So I gotta be honest, I tried to install Linux Mint on there and it didn't work because it's corrupted. My ISO is corrupted. You can see here that it's only 354 megabytes. Install this, and you can, install whatchamacallit, Linux distribution on this, and just, it's really good for learning. All right, let's go quick overview. My main thing to kind of check is to make sure I have at least 2 gigs of RAM, and then processors I'm going to change down back to 3, just to kind of keep it like that. And yeah, everything looks fine. So I'm going to click connect, and just to kind of show you here, this is what I would have done earlier. I'm going to eject this, go back here, just like I did with the previous one, insert disk, and then again, check or select the Linux version. So now it's going to run just fine. We're going to launch this bad boy, and I'm going to start installing Linux. I'm going to hit enter here, or you can see that it's just going to install it as we are just kind of looking at it. And I wanted to show you the running virtual machines. I'm thinking, should I just kind of minimize this, let it do its thing? Okay, let's try this one here. I'm going to run it just to show you a running virtual machine. This is either Windows 10 or Windows Server 2019. Either should work. Connect. And it kind of asks, and let me log into this. If I can remember my password. But you can see it's just Windows operating system. And this is Windows Server 2019. Well, see, you can see this one is actually really responsive, which is good, and goes to show that you can run these type of machines and be pretty useful, pretty fast. You see, whatever I'm clicking on, it's no problem whatsoever. I went full screen on this. Everything's responsive, everything's fine. I don't know, control panel, file explorer. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Works pretty good. And let me see if I can just do open just Active Directory users and computers. There you go. It's snappy. It's working, and you can play around with it. When it comes to Linux stuff, you can just try different versions and see which one you can get going. They're all going to be different. Obviously, some of them don't even have GUI at all. There's no desktop per se, or like a visual desktop, and there'll be a lot of command line action going on. But this is virtual machines in a nutshell for people to kind of get introduced to virtual machines and install their own and play around with. And there you go. I hope you like this video. Please share it with friends. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye. Hello my friends, my name is Irvin, also known as cobuman. This is a continuation of Microsoft Azure platform. We're going to be learning new things today. In the previous video I've talked about on how to create different virtual machines on the Microsoft Azure platform, how to create them, how to configure them, and how to monitor them for different issues. Amongst other things that I've talked about in the video, it's really good idea to actually look at that and watch that first video in order to get a really good introduction of what Microsoft Azure is. As promised in that video, I'm going to continue with the second video that will be about storage accounts, and we're going to create file shares inside of that storage accounts, and then we're going to add those file shares into our virtual machines, which are going to appear as shared drives. So if you do tech support, you're familiar with shared drives, which is something that you would add to the user's computer in order for them to access it for storage. So again, I highly recommend that you watch the previous video as an introduction, so that way you can follow along. Of course, I will have a pop-up link right here on the right hand side that you can simply follow, and at the end of this video. Alright guys, that being said, please take 1 second to like my video. That really makes a huge difference for me. Thank you so much. I appreciate your support on this. Alright guys, let's get into it. And here we are in our home page of Microsoft Azure. From here we can click storage accounts, but another way to find storage account is to click on the little hamburger icon and just go down and select storage accounts. So let's go ahead and click storage accounts, and we're going to create one. You already can see that I already have one, and that's related to the fact that you gotta have one in order to store your virtual machines or anything else that you create that requires taking up space or storage, right? So of course we're going to have a storage account already. But for this, we're going to create a special one just for file storage. So from here, we're going to click Add, and then we're going to create one. And the reason we're creating one is related to billing mostly. So Microsoft wants to know, what are you using things for? Just like we created different resource groups for our virtual machines, Microsoft wants us to create a separate group for the storage accounts. So it's kind of related to billing, so that way they know what that is used for, so that way they can bill you for it. Kind of similar to what we had in our virtual machines, the first thing that comes up is to select our subscription. And again, subscription is basically the subscription that we're using for the Microsoft Azure platform, a way to bill you basically, just like you have, for example, Netflix subscription or anything else. So you tell it, okay, I want to use this one. In our case, it's already selected. And then here we're going to select a resource group. As I mentioned in the previous video, every time you create a resource group, which is what we've done in the previous video, you want to make sure that everything else that you want it to be connected to that, you want to make sure you select the same one. And in the previous video, we created a group called Azure Tutorial. So we're going to select that. And just to kind of quickly overview why we're doing this, when you make sure that you're selecting the same resource group, you also make sure at the same time that you're putting everything on the same network. So with this way, it's going to make sure that that the network connections between all those virtual machines is also working, in the sense that they are on the same network. It's going to reduce the fact that you may need to configure different security settings, this and that. It kind of puts it in the same network. You will have connections to it, and that way you are good to go, especially when you create later on a sync storage, which basically what it does, it creates a backup of the storage that you're creating work. So you got to make sure that is in the same resource group, and in our sense we're kind of concerned about same network so that there's connectivity. All right, we're good there. And now below we can select storage account name. We can type it in. We're just going to call it new storage, and it doesn't like the caps, so we're just going to use lower letters. New storage is already taken. We're going to call it new storage 1. All right, we're going to name it something specific. I'm going to call it Azure Storage. Let's see if it tutorial is already taken. All right. Well, let's just leave it at that. Azure Storage Tut. We're going to leave it at that. So yeah, it's very picky, and which is pretty common, so that's good. So the next thing we're looking at is performance. It kind of depends on what you're looking at. If you want the standard performance, you can leave it at that. If you want the premium, you can select that as well, depending on your business needs. But we're just going to keep it standard for the purpose of the tutorial, and that's going to be fine. And then we can click next here, so you can see the network. You just leave it at default. It should work fine. It says here public endpoint all networks. All networks meaning that all the network that you've created. You can leave it at that. And then if we click next advanced, you got different things that you can adjust. But as I've mentioned in my previous videos, I like to keep things simple, so that way it's easier to follow. So we're just going to simply click review and create. All right, now it just says the deployment is complete. And we can certainly click on go to resources and go to it right away. But what I want to do actually real quick is make sure that at least one of my virtual machines is turned on, so that way after we configure our file share, we can go inside of it and use PowerShell to add that access to the share that we create. So I'm going to click on the the little hamburger icon. I'm going to go down to my virtual machines, and I'm going to make sure that at least one of them is running. And looks like my Windows Server 2019 is running, which is good. Go home here, and as you noticed in our home page, it gives you access to the most recent things that you've worked on. And here's our Azure storage tutorial account. We're going to click on that. So from here, we're going to click on file shares. I'm going to make it. We're going to back to our Windows Server. We have PowerShell open, and we have File Explorer open. You can see that there's no shared drive named J inside of it. So we're going to paste our script in there, and this is going to add, once it connects to it, it's going to add our J drive into it. So just kind of bear with me here in a moment. The virtual machine is kind of running slow. I'm not sure what's going on, but it will add it there eventually. So once it's done, I will show you that it did it. All right, so you saw that it was waiting for a response, waiting for and then verified the credentials, and then you can see that it added that J file share drive into here, and then it came up in our file. You can see that it says here 10 gigabytes, and if we go inside of it, we should be able to see that directory that we created, and from here we can literally just put anything we want that we can create. I don't know, let's create a document. Test doc. All right, and then once we get out of it, in order to do this administration of it, if we go inside of user directory, we can see that test document that it came up. So as one of the last things I kind of wanted to show you that is really cool about these storage accounts is that you can actually monitor them just like those virtual machines that I showed you before. So let's go back to it, and then if you scroll down, we selected our Azure storage toot here. If you scroll down, you can monitor its usage. So you can, just like with the virtual machines, you can monitor different usage and access at periods. All right. So why am I teaching you this? Well, obviously, so you can learn how to use it and how to administer Azure storage accounts. But there's another reason for implementing this type of shared drive is that, you can simply take that script if you want people to connect to it, and you can create that script. You can pass it on to people manually, or you can create the script and set it up in Active Directory for a certain group of people that work. For example, let's say you're in a business environment. There are 5 different groups. So let's say there is collections department. Let's say there is accounting department. Let's say there is I don't know, some kind of a tech department, and they all are going to be in different groups in Active Directory. Well, you can set up a script, what they call a post logon script, that will add these type of shared drives to them automatically upon login. So you can use this script, you can implement it within Active Directory to run it for that specific group or even specific user if you want. But let's stick to the group. So let's say you want all collections department to have access to this specific store created, and you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Hello my friends, my name is Irvin, also known as cobuman. Today's video is about Linux, introduction to Linux, navigation specifically, and a comparison to Windows and how similar they are. The purpose of this is to help you transition from Windows to Linux, not in a permanent sense, but to help you actually decide to learn a little bit of Linux, because Linux is just awesome and you won't believe how similar it is to Windows, with the exception of some commands. But when it comes to its structure, it's incredibly similar. So starting off, I just want to show you that this is a virtual machine of the Debian distro that I'm using, and we are at what they also call what's called console, or a command line for Linux. In comparison, we have a command prompt, also known as DOS for Windows. So the default starting position for Linux is exactly the same as for Windows. So in order to prove it to you that I am in the exact same location as Windows, is very simple. I have to list all of the directories that are within this current directory. In order to do that, we're going to type in ls, which basically lists all of the content that are within a directory, whether it's a current one or the one you specify. In our case, we're just going to list the content of the current one. So if I type in ls, we see some familiar stuff. What does that look like? That looks just like our local profile that's within Windows. So we have desktop, we have documents, downloads, music, pictures, public, and videos and such, right? And by default, command prompt also starts within your local profile. So let me just type in dir. Look familiar? Desktop, documents, downloads,